What if I told you there's a place where people whisper to ghosts in castles, greet each other with cheek kisses by precise regional rules, and bake cheese inside lava-heated caves? Welcome to France, a land where elegance meets the eccentric. From dragon legends in sleepy villages to wine flowing from public fountains and laws that forbid naming your pig Napoleon, this country is bursting with curious customs and unbelievable quirks. So grab your baguette, adjust your beret, and prepare to be amazed. We're diving into the strangest, most surprising, and utterly fascinating facts about France. La Dune du Pilat is Europe's tallest sand dune, rising majestically along the Atlantic coast near Arcachon in southwestern France. Stretching over 2.7 kilometers in length, 500 meters wide, and reaching up to 110 meters in height, this massive dune is in constant motion, slowly advancing inland as winds push sand from the ocean. Climbing it is both a physical challenge and a sensory marvel. Your feet sink into soft, sun-warmed sand, and at the summit, panoramic views unfold. The pine forests of the Landes on one side, the shimmering blue bay of Arcachon on the other, and the Cap Ferret Peninsula slicing into the sea. The contrast of forest, sea, and sand creates an almost surreal landscape. The dune is a popular destination for hikers, paragliders, and nature lovers, who marvel not only at its scale, but at its quiet power, an ever-shifting monument shaped by elemental forces over millennia. Les Salons d'Hyères are a stunning expanse of salt marshes in the Provence region, famous for their mesmerizing pink hue and ecological richness. The vibrant color comes from microscopic algae that thrive in high salinity environments, especially during warm, dry periods. These salt pans are not only a visual spectacle, but also a haven for bird life, including flamingos, herons, and avocets. Historically used for salt extraction since Roman times, the area has now become an important protected wetland, combining industrial heritage with environmental preservation. Walking through the marshes, visitors are treated to a surreal palette: rose-tinted waters, white salt crusts, and the soft silhouettes of birds wading in the shallows. The air carries the scent of salt and sea, and the gentle rustle of wind through the reeds adds to the meditative atmosphere. Les Salons d'Hyères are more than a scenic backdrop. They're a living ecosystem where beauty and biodiversity coexist in delicate harmony. Le Mont Aiguille, rising abruptly from the rolling foothills of the French Prealps, has long captivated the imagination with its sheer cliffs and flat summit that seems to defy nature. Once dubbed inaccessible by medieval observers, it was considered one of the Seven Wonders of Dauphine. That changed in 1492, when Antoine de Ville, under orders from King Charles VIII, led the first recorded technical climb in history to its summit using ladders, ropes, and brute determination. This event marked the dawn of mountaineering as a deliberate exploratory pursuit rather than a necessity of survival. Today, Mont Aiguille is popular among experienced climbers and hikers who approach it with both awe and respect. Its isolated, table-like profile stands in dramatic contrast to the surrounding forested valleys and snow-dusted peaks. More than a geological marvel, Mont Aiguille is a symbol of human curiosity and the desire to reach what was once thought unreachable. Les Calanques are breathtaking, fjord-like inlets carved into the white limestone coast between Marseille and Cassis, where sheer cliffs plunge into impossibly turquoise waters. These dramatic formations, shaped by eons of erosion and tectonic shifts, create a stark contrast between rugged rock and crystalline sea, forming a paradise for hikers, swimmers, and climbers. Some calanques are accessible only by foot or boat, adding an element of pilgrimage to their discovery. Along the trails, aromatic herbs like thyme and rosemary scent the air, and glimpses of wild goats or falcons are not uncommon. The water, calm and jewel-toned, is a magnet for kayakers and snorkelers exploring hidden coves and marine life. Declared a national park in 2012, the Calanques are protected not only for their beauty, but also for their fragile ecosystem. They embody the wild, elemental side of the Mediterranean, where cliffs, sea, and sun form a composition of serene, yet dramatic harmony. Le Cercle de Gavany is a colossal natural amphitheatre carved by ancient glaciers in the heart of the French Pyrenees. often described as one of the most awe-inspiring landscapes in Europe. Towering rock walls, some over 1,500 meters high, form a perfect semicircle around a verdant valley, creating a sense of sacred enclosure and sublime scale. At its center, the Gavarnie Falls tumble 422 meters from a hanging glacier, the highest waterfall in France. The cirque's grandeur is such that the Romantic poet Victor Hugo called it a colosseum of nature. Visitors can hike along well-marked trails that meander through meadows bursting with wildflowers in summer and echo with silence in the snowy stillness of winter. The site is a UNESCO World Heritage destination, not only for its geological magnificence but for its cultural resonance, long celebrated in legend and art. Here, nature assumes the role of architect, building cathedrals in stone and time. Les Ortillonnages are a network of floating gardens threaded by narrow canals in the city of Amiens, offering a lush and tranquil counterpoint to urban life. Dating back to Roman times, these hortillons, market gardeners, have cultivated vegetables and flowers on small man-made islands for centuries, using flat-bemmed boats called barque cornette to navigate the watery labyrinth. The result is a unique landscape of emerald plots surrounded by reflective water and whispering reeds, alive with birdsong and blooming colour. Many of the gardens are still worked today, producing local produce sold in weekly floating markets, keeping alive a centuries-old tradition. The Hortillonnages also serve as a living canvas for contemporary artists, who often install site-specific works during the summer festival Art et Jardin. Whether explored by boat or admired from shore, this green mosaic offers a rare harmony between human cultivation and natural rhythm, where each row of leeks and lilies flows like a poem in the water. Le Marais Poitevin, known as La Venise Verte or Green Venice, is a vast labyrinth of canals, marshes and water meadows stretching across western France. Spanning nearly 100,000 hectares, this lush wetland is crisscrossed by narrow waterways lined with poplars and willows, where flat-bemmed boats glide silently through reflections of sky and leaf. The emerald hue of duckweed gives the canals their verdant nickname, adding a surreal, enchanted quality to the landscape. Once reclaimed from the sea by medieval monks through a complex system of dikes and sluices, the region has evolved into a haven for biodiversity and slow-paced tourism. Birds nest in reeds, dragonflies dart above the water, and herons wade gracefully along the banks. Whether paddling through the winding channels or cycling along shaded paths, visitors encounter a world suspended between land and water, history and ecology. The Marais Poitevin is not just a place, it's an experience of serenity, quiet wonder, and deep connection to nature. Les Volcans d'Auvergne are a chain of extinct volcanic peaks that define the rugged beauty of central France, offering a dramatic landscape of craters, cones, and lava flows softened by time and vegetation. Part of the larger Massif Central, this region boasts the Champ des Puits, a UNESCO World Heritage Site made up of 80 dormant volcanoes aligned along a fault line. The most famous is the Puy de Dôme, which rises 1,465 meters and offers sweeping views of the surrounding plains. These ancient geological formations were once feared and revered, shaping local myths and influencing settlement patterns. Today, they're popular among hikers, paragliders, and geology enthusiasts who explore their trails, calderas, and panoramic ridges. Despite their volcanic origins, the area is now green and serene, dotted with Romanesque churches and quiet villages. The Volcans d'Auvergne are a testament to Earth's fiery past and its peaceful present, where once molten landscapes now invite contemplation and adventure. Le Lac Rose in the Camargue is a pink-hued saltwater lagoon that glows with otherworldly beauty, particularly under the southern French sun. The striking colour comes from halophilic algae and salt-loving bacteria that thrive in the high salinity environment, producing pigments that give the water a blush, ranging from pale rose to deep magenta, depending on the season and sunlight. Located in one of Europe's most unique ecosystems, where flamingos, wild horses and bulls roam free, the lake is both a scientific curiosity and a painter's dream. Salt has been harvested from the area for centuries, creating vast white flats that shimmer like snow against the pink waters. Visitors are often stunned by the contrast between the pastel hues of the lake and the blue of the sky, creating a landscape that feels almost alien in its beauty. Le Lac Rose is not only a visual marvel, but also a symbol of the delicate balance between nature's extremes: salt, sun, life, and light. Les Orgues d'El-sur-Tête are a surreal geological formation in the Pyrenees-Orientales region, resembling massive stone pipe organs rising from the earth. Formed over millennia through a combination of water and wind erosion, these ochre and white pillars, known as fairy chimneys, are composed of soft sedimentary rock that has been sculpted into intricate columns, fluted ridges, and narrow spires. The name organs derives from their resemblance to the pipes of a grand cathedral organ, and their dramatic silhouette against the southern sky makes them a natural masterpiece. Surrounded by scrubland and distant mountain peaks, the site has a quiet, almost mystical atmosphere, especially during sunrise or sunset, when the light paints the formations in gold and crimson. Walking among the towering structures feels like entering an open-air sanctuary where nature, time, and the elements have collaborated to create a symphony in stone. It's a place where geology becomes poetry and silence amplifies awe. In France, greetings are not just a casual gesture, they're an intricate social ritual, especially when it comes to la bise, the traditional cheek kiss. But what many don't realise is that the number of kisses, their order, and even whether they're expected vary dramatically depending on the region. In Paris, 2 kisses are common. In parts of the south, you might exchange 3 or even 4. Some regions start with the right cheek, others the left. And in certain areas, particularly rural or conservative ones, la bise might only be shared among close acquaintances, while in more relaxed or youthful circles, it's used more freely, even among strangers. These nuanced, often unspoken rules form an invisible cultural code that every French local learns early in life, and misreading them can lead to awkward social moments or misinterpretations of one's intentions. Le déjeuner sur l'herbe, the classic French picnic, is not merely a casual lunch outdoors, it's a beloved cultural ritual elevated to an art form. Rooted in the pastoral imagery of Impressionist paintings and rural tradition, it typically includes a carefully arranged spread of fresh baguettes, aged cheeses, cured meats like saucisson or jambon cru, seasonal fruits, and of course, a bottle or 2 of good wine. Blankets are spread across grassy meadows or the banks of quiet rivers, and the emphasis is on lingering, savouring both the flavours and the conversation. For the French, this kind of picnic is not about convenience, but connection. It's a moment to slow down, appreciate the setting, and celebrate life's simple pleasures with a touch of rustic elegance. Even today, many French families and friends make it a regular ritual when the weather is mild, echoing the aesthetic charm of Manet's painting and centuries of countryside leisure. La Fête des Lumières in Lyon is more than a citywide light show. It's a centuries-old tradition rooted in religious devotion and local pride. Every December, the city transforms into a glowing spectacle as homes, balconies, and windows are adorned with candles to honour the Virgin Mary. The origins trace back to 1852, when the people of Lyon spontaneously illuminated their homes in gratitude for Mary sparing the city from a plague. Today, the festival has expanded into an internationally acclaimed event, featuring cutting-edge light installations by renowned artists projected onto historic buildings, bridges, and public spaces. Despite its modern flair, the heart of the festival remains deeply communal. Locals still place simple votive candles in coloured glasses on their windowsills, maintaining a humble connection to the past. The entire city becomes a walking gallery where sacred tradition and artistic innovation blend into an unforgettable sensory experience. Le Père Fouettard is a chilling counterpart to the jolly figure of Saint Nicholas in French folklore, especially in the eastern regions like Alsace and Lorraine. Unlike the gift-giving saint who rewards good children, Père Fouettard's role is to punish the naughty ones, sometimes with a whip or a switch. He often appears clad in dark robes, his face grimy with soot, and his demeanor grim and foreboding. Historically, his legend may stem from older medieval tales of bogeymen used to enforce discipline among children. In modern times, he's usually seen during St. Nicholas Day celebrations in early December, parading alongside the saint as a symbolic reminder of consequences. Though less emphasized in contemporary practice, his story adds a layer of dark mystique to the holiday season and reflects the duality often present in traditional European folklore, the balance of reward and punishment, light and shadow. Les Santons de Provence are more than miniature figurines, they are intricate representations of an entire cultural landscape. Originating in the Provence region, these tiny clay sculptures go far beyond the nativity scene. While the Holy Family is always present, the heart of a Santon display is the lively village that surrounds them, filled with bakers, fishermen, shepherds, washerwomen, and even accordion players. First crafted during the French Revolution, when churches were closed and large nativity displays were banned, Santon allowed families to recreate the Christmas story at home with a personal, local flair. Today, they are lovingly handcrafted, often passed down through generations and sold at bustling Christmas markets across southern France. Each figure captures the traditional dress and tools of its trade, preserving a snapshot of rural French life. Setting up a Santon village isn't just holiday decor, it's an act of storytelling, heritage, and heartfelt nostalgia. La Tarasque Festival is one of France's most captivating expressions of medieval legend, held annually in the town of Tarascon in Provence. The star of the event is a massive, fearsome, dragon-like creature known as the Tarasque. According to legend, it once terrorized the countryside until it was tamed by Saint Martha through kindness and prayer. Today, this mythical beast is brought to life through a giant puppet made of wood and fabric, operated by a hidden team of people. As it winds through the streets, accompanied by costumed villagers and musicians, children scream in delight and mild fear. The festival is a colourful blend of religious procession and theatrical pageantry, with medieval costumes, flag bearers and drummers giving it a historical flavour. It celebrates not only a local myth, but the victory of compassion over violence, and it stands as a vivid example of how folklore remains alive in communal memory. Le Mistoufle is a lesser-known but mischievously delightful tradition from the Provence region. It involves children playing pranks on unsuspecting neighbours by knocking on their doors and running away before being caught, a playful rural version of what some cultures call ding-dong ditch. The name itself has a charming ring, often passed down as a rite of passage among local youth. Though not associated with any specific holiday, the act often occurs in the liminal times around Carnival or Christmas, when social rules loosen and light-hearted mischief is tolerated, even expected. Adults often play along, pretending surprise or giving chase, adding to the humour and harmless thrill. While it may seem simple, Le Mistoufle reflects a broader tradition in rural France of embracing community engagement, humour, and youthful freedom. In these fleeting acts of harmless rebellion, children learn about social boundaries while bonding with one another in laughter and speed. Les maisons à colombage are among the most visually distinctive features of the Alsace region, standing as architectural tributes to a bygone era. These half-timbered houses, with their intricate wooden beams and brightly painted facades, line the cobbled streets of towns like Colmar and Strasbourg. The beams form geometric patterns, often filled in with a contrasting plaster that gives each house a unique character. Their design isn't just charming, it's practical. The timber frame allows for flexibility in construction and easier repairs, and the overhanging upper floors once minimized taxes by reducing street-level footprint. Many date back to the Renaissance, and their enduring beauty lies in their ability to blend craftsmanship with storytelling. Each house feels like a living museum. Walking through an Alsatian village, one feels transported into a fairy tale, where the buildings themselves seem to smile and lean toward each other in whispered conversation across narrow streets. Le Carnaval de Dunkerque is not your typical festive parade. It's a wild, eccentric, and thoroughly unique celebration rooted in seafaring tradition. Held in the northern coastal town of Dunkirk, the carnival begins in late winter and spans several weeks of chaotic revelry. The most notorious event features a surreal ritual. Town officials standing on a balcony of the city hall throw thousands of smoked herrings into a crowd of cheering revelers. Everyone wears outlandish costumes, often cross-dressing, and carries umbrellas as part of the carnival lore. The air is filled with marching bands, satirical songs, and unrestrained joy. Originally meant to send off fishermen who would spend months at sea, the carnival is now a cathartic release from winter's gloom, a blend of historical homage and modern absurdity. It's not just about spectacle, it's about community solidarity, shared madness, and the celebration of identity through chaos and laughter. La Fête du Citron in Menton is one of France's most vibrant and aromatic festivals, held every February in this sun-soaked town near the Italian border. What sets it apart is its astonishing displays made entirely from lemons and oranges. Towering sculptures, ranging from animals and historical figures to entire scenes from mythology, are crafted using tons of citrus fruit, arranged meticulously on wire frames. Le Mon Dieu, the festival began in the 1930 Cess as a way to celebrate the region's abundant lemon harvest and has grown into an internationally acclaimed event drawing thousands of visitors. Parades, music, light shows, and a citrus-themed market turn the town into a living, breathing citrus wonderland. Beyond its visual grandeur, the festival honors Menton's agricultural legacy and the creativity of its artisans. It's a rare celebration where art, scent, and nature collide, offering a burst of brightness during the last grey weeks of winter. The ortolan bunting is one of the most controversial and enigmatic gastronomic traditions in French history, a dish so secretive and ethically fraught that it's now illegal to serve. This tiny songbird, once a prized delicacy among elite diners, was historically captured during its migratory period, fattened in darkness, and then drowned in Armagnac. Diners would traditionally eat the bird whole, bones and all, while covering their heads with a napkin, not just to retain the aromas, but some say to shield the act from the eyes of God. The experience was described as both sublime and grotesque, a moment of culinary transcendence wrapped in controversy. Despite its ban and strong ethical opposition, whispers of underground meals still surface occasionally, feeding the mythos of the ortolan as a symbol of culinary indulgence and moral complexity. It remains a haunting emblem of how taste, tradition, and taboo can collide at the highest levels of gastronomy. Le Phare Breton is a humble yet cherished dessert from the region of Brittany, embodying the rustic simplicity of rural French baking. This custardy flan is dense and rich, made from basic ingredients, eggs, milk, sugar and flour, but its defining feature is the addition of prunes, or sometimes raisins, which give it a gentle sweetness and chewy texture. Traditionally prepared in deep baking dishes and cut into thick slices, Phare Breton has the heartiness of a farmer's comfort food, originally served to feed hungry labourers. Today, it's a nostalgic treat often found at family gatherings and local patisseries. Its slightly caramelised edges, silky interior and bursts of dried fruit make it both comforting and satisfying. While it doesn't boast the visual elegance of more refined French desserts, Phare Breton delivers something more enduring, a taste of home, tradition, and the countryside's quiet charm, where every bite tells a story of heritage. The later Louis Cornon, also hailing from Brittany, is a pastry so decadently rich that it borders on sinful indulgence. Its name translates simply to butter cake, but that doesn't capture the full alchemy of this caramelized, laminated wonder. Made from a yeasted dough folded repeatedly with layers of butter and sugar, it's baked until the outer crust becomes deeply golden and shatteringly crisp, while the inside stays tender and slightly chewy. As it bakes, the sugar melts and the butter seeps into every layer, creating a pastry that's crunchy, flaky, sticky and buttery all at once. Though it resembles a croissant in technique, the kouign-amann is heavier and sweeter, often described as dangerously addictive. It was once little known outside of Brittany, but in recent years, its cult status has spread, with pastry lovers worldwide seeking out its complex buttery glory. Eating one feels like a secret pleasure, a moment of unfiltered joy with no regrets. Le Trou Normand, or the Norman Hole, is a curious and delightfully French gastronomic interlude designed to refresh the palate and make room during multi-course meals. This tradition involves pausing between the heavier courses to take a shot of Calvados, a potent apple brandy native to Normandy, sometimes served with a scoop of apple sorbet or a sliver of tart apple. The true normande acts as a digestive jolt, a fiery reset that awakens the senses and rekindles the appetite. While it might sound like a rustic custom, it's still practiced in many traditional households and fine restaurants, especially during celebratory meals. Beyond its physiological effect, the ritual adds rhythm and drama to the meal, a kind of culinary punctuation mark that says, "We're only just getting started." In a culture that sees dining as performance and ritual, the true normand is a brilliant example of how the French make even digestion an art form. La galette de roi, or king cake, is a golden puff pastry dessert with a secret hiding inside. Traditionally eaten to celebrate Epiphany in early January, the cake is typically filled with frangipane, a rich almond cream, but the real thrill comes from the fève, a tiny ceramic figurine baked into the cake. Whoever finds the fève in their slice is crowned king or queen for the day and gets to wear a paper crown, making it both a culinary and social event. The origins of this tradition trace back to pagan and Roman rituals celebrating the winter solstice, later Christianized into the Feast of the Three Kings. In different regions of France, variations of the cake appear. Some are brioche style with candied fruit. But in every version, the galette de roi remains a joyful ritual that brings families and co-workers together in playful anticipation, where every bite holds the possibility of a royal surprise. Le pain d'épices, especially famed in Dijon, is France's aromatic answer to gingerbread, steeped in history and heady with spices. Unlike its more molasses-forward counterparts found elsewhere, this honey-sweetened bread is deeply infused with flavors like anise, cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves, resulting in a warm, nostalgic profile that evokes festive markets and rustic kitchens. Originating in the Middle Ages and influenced by Arab spice roots and Chinese honey cakes, it became particularly popular in Burgundy, where local honey and spice blends gave it a distinctive character. Traditionally served with foie gras or cheese in savory dishes or eaten plain with tea or mulled wine, pain d'épices is both versatile and deeply symbolic of the region's culinary heritage. Over time, it has remained a staple of French holidays, especially Christmas, offering not just taste but atmosphere. The smell of it baking alone is enough to conjure wintry joy and the coziness of old-world kitchens. Le broccio is the pride of Corsican cheesemaking, a soft, fresh cheese made from the whey of sheep or goat's milk and enjoyed in both sweet and savoury dishes. Resembling ricotta in texture, but with a slightly tangier, more herbaceous flavour, broccio is often consumed within days of production, capturing the essence of the Corsican mountains and the milk's natural sweetness. Islanders use it in a wide array of dishes. It fills savoury pastas, enriches omelettes and stars in local desserts like fiordoni, a lemony cheesecake-like confection. For Corsicans, broccio is more than food. It's a symbol of their fiercely independent culinary identity and pastoral way of life. Traditionally eaten fresh with a drizzle of honey or a sprinkle of sugar, it's a reminder that some of the most transcendent flavours come from simplicity and freshness. Every bite of broccio tells a story of mountain air, ancient herding practices, and island pride. Les calissons d'ail are diamond-shaped confections from Aix-en-Provence, renowned for their unique texture and delicate floral sweetness. Made from a paste of finely ground almonds, candied melon and orange peel, topped with a thin layer of royal icing, each calisson offers a chewy, fragrant bite that feels like a taste of southern sunlight. The recipe dates back to the 15th century and is often linked to stories of royal weddings and religious offerings. To this day, calissons are associated with celebration and reverence. In Aix, a special mass is held each year to bless the new batch of confections. Their production is still a point of regional pride, with strict rules protecting their authenticity. Often sold in elegant boxes and gifted as tokens of affection or festivity, calissons are not just sweets, they're heirlooms of Provençal identity, each one a bite-sized work of art made to be savoured slowly and remembered long. La bouillabaisse is a legendary fish stew from the port city of Marseille, rooted in the practical traditions of local fishermen. Originally made from the catch that couldn't be sold, scorpion fish, sea robin and conger eel, it has evolved into a refined, ceremonious dish. The broth is saffron-colored and perfumed with garlic, fennel, tomato and herbs, often simmered for hours to develop depth. It's served in two parts. First, the broth with slices of crusty bread and rouillé, a spicy saffron and garlic mayonnaise. Then the fish, presented separately for diners to savor. The preparation is codified, with strict expectations about which fish to include and how to serve it. Despite its humble origins, bouillabaisse now commands a place of honor in fine French cuisine, embodying the Mediterranean's bounty and Marseille's gritty elegance. It's more than a meal, it's an experience of layered flavors, seafaring culture, and culinary reverence. Le vin jaune, or yellow wine, is a Jura region specialty unlike any other in the French wine repertoire. Made from the rare Savagnin grape and aged for over 6 years in oak barrels that are never completely filled, this wine develops under a veil of yeast, voile, similar to the process used in sherry. The result is a golden, nutty, oxidative wine with intense aromas of walnut, curry and dried fruit. Bottled in a distinctive clavellin, a squat 620ml bottle, vin jaune is often paired with local dishes like chicken in morel cream sauce or aged Comte cheese. It's a wine for the adventurous palate, complex and unapologetically bold. Revered by connoisseurs but less known to the casual drinker, vin jaune embodies the quiet eccentricity of Jura itself, remote, proud and intensely flavorful. Drinking it is like entering a secret society of taste, where patience is rewarded with something utterly unique and unforgettable. L'Oeil is a distinctive piece of French legislation passed in 1991 that sharply limits how alcohol and tobacco can be advertised, particularly in public media. Named after Claude Evin, the then Minister of Health, the law stipulates that alcohol advertising may only include factual, objective information such as alcohol content, origin and method of production, no glamour, no lifestyle appeal, and certainly no seductive visuals. This regulation is especially stringent in media consumed by younger audiences, including television, radio, and sporting events. Wine and spirits, traditionally embedded in French culture, were once marketed with pride and flair, but Louis Evan reined in these romanticized portrayals, aiming to reduce underage drinking and public health risks. The law has been a source of tension between the cultural reverence for French wine and modern health concerns, but it remains a significant step in reshaping public discourse around alcohol and prioritizing prevention over promotion. The ban on ketchup in French school cafeterias, introduced in 2011, is a culinary decree that made global headlines and sparked both amusement and admiration. The rule prohibits the blanket use of ketchup in school meals, allowing it only when served alongside fries, its one accepted companion. Behind this seemingly quirky law is a very serious intent: to preserve the integrity of traditional French cuisine and instill proper eating habits in children from an early age. French officials viewed the overuse of ketchup as a threat to the subtle flavors and cultural identity of national dishes. It was also seen as symbolic of creeping Americanization and fast food culture. By limiting condiments like ketchup, the government hopes to guide students toward appreciating the nuances of French cooking, whether it's the depth of a ratatouille or the balance of a bechamel. In short, the ban is a culinary line drawn in the sand in defense of national taste. The peculiar law forbidding anyone from naming a pig Napoleon is one of those rare relics of French legal history that continues to capture imaginations, even if it's no longer actively enforced. Though its exact origins are murky, the rule is generally interpreted as a symbolic gesture to preserve the dignity of the French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte. It may have stemmed from a desire to prevent satire or disrespect in rural or political settings, especially given the historical power of caricature and satire in France. George Orwell's novel Animal Farm likely didn't help the pig's case, with its central character, a pig named Napoleon, rising to power in ways that mirror authoritarian regimes. Today, while the law is not enforced in practice, it remains on the books, more as a cultural curiosity than an active statute. It serves as a reminder of how language, symbolism and legacy are taken very seriously in the French legal imagination. La Bibliothèque Fédération des Héautextes is a truly unique institution in France, a national archive dedicated not to books or artifacts, but to smells. This library of odors collects and preserves aromatic compounds for research, industry, and cultural heritage. Its mission is to document the olfactory memory of France, from the scent of ancient perfumes and endangered flowers to the smells of historical locations or artisanal processes like leather tanning or bread baking. Scientists, perfumers, historians, and even artists collaborate within this space to catalogue and analyse scents that are part of French identity. With the rise of environmental change and the disappearance of certain natural odours, the work of this library becomes increasingly relevant. It also plays a role in training the next generation of noses, as master perfumers are called. In essence, it's an archive for the ephemeral, a place where invisible traces of culture are preserved for future generations to inhale and remember. Bison Futé is a lovable cartoon bison with a serious job, helping the French public avoid traffic chaos, especially during the country's infamous summer holiday migrations. Launched in the 1970 sessions by the Ministry of Transport, Bison Futé, literally clever bison, quickly became the face of road safety and traffic forecasting. Every year he appears in reports, maps and websites, color-coding travel days from green to black, depending on congestion levels. His friendly design and clear messaging make travel updates more accessible, especially for families and vacationers. Despite the rise of GPS apps, Bison Futé retains a cherished role in French culture, particularly around les grands départs, when the entire nation seems to hit the road. More than just a mascot, he represents the blend of public service and whimsical charm, a government initiative that managed to be both informative and endearing. For generations of French drivers, summer travel wouldn't be the same without consulting their trusty bison. Le droit du banc, or the right to the bench, is a heartwarming and deeply traditional custom observed in some rural French villages. This informal yet culturally binding right allows elderly residents, often those born and raised in the village, to claim a permanent spot on a communal bench, usually located in the village square or outside their home. The bench becomes a symbol of respect, social standing, and continuity, passed down almost like an heirloom. While not officially encoded in modern law, the practice is honoured with quiet reverence. It reflects the deeply rooted French values of community, ageing with dignity, and intergenerational connection. Younger villagers understand the etiquette. You don't sit on Monsieur or Madame's bench unless invited. These benches are more than seating, they're gathering points, observatories, and places where stories are told and time passes slowly. In an increasingly fast-paced world, le droit du banc offers a timeless gesture of respect for those who came before. La chasse à la glu is a contentious and centuries-old hunting practice in southern France where birds are trapped using glue-covered sticks. Practitioners argue it's a traditional method deeply embedded in regional culture, especially in Provence. They claim it's selective, seasonal, and regulated. Critics, however, including conservationists and animal welfare groups, argue that the method is cruel, indiscriminate, and violates European Union directives on bird protection. The glue immobilizes birds, often damaging their wings or feathers irreparably, and can lead to significant stress or death. The practice has become the center of heated legal and ecological debates, leading to periodic bans and reinstatements depending on political shifts. While some see it as a living relic worth preserving, others view it as an outdated cruelty, incompatible with modern environmental ethics. As the tug-of-war continues between tradition and conservation, la chasse à la glu remains one of France's most controversial cultural flashpoints. Le permis de conduire à 14 is a surprising allowance in rural France, where teenagers as young as 14 are legally permitted to drive tractors and certain small agricultural vehicles. This rule exists primarily to accommodate the realities of farm life, especially in isolated communities where young people are essential to daily operations. These youths often grow up on farms, learning to handle machinery well before the age of conventional driving. By granting them an early license, the law acknowledges their practical experience and the economic necessity of their participation in agricultural work. While it may seem shocking from an urban or international perspective, this exception blends responsibility with tradition, recognizing that life in the countryside moves by a different rhythm. Strict regulations and training courses ensure safety is not compromised, and for many rural teens, this license is not just functional, it's a rite of passage into adulthood and family stewardship. La Fête de la Transhumance is a spectacular pastoral celebration marking the seasonal migration of livestock, primarily sheep, from lowland farms to alpine meadows. Held in various parts of southern France such as Saint-Rémy-de-Provence or Die, the event transforms an agricultural necessity into a vibrant cultural parade. Shepherds, sheepdogs, and hundreds of sheep move through town centres, often accompanied by folk music, traditional costumes, and feasting. Spectators line the streets to witness this ancient rhythm of rural life, and local markets spring up selling regional cheeses, meats, and crafts. The celebration honours not just the animals, but the shepherd's way of life, emphasising sustainable farming, environmental harmony, and intergenerational knowledge. In a world where many are disconnected from food origins, La Fête de la Transhumance reconnects people to the land and the life cycles that sustain us. It's a moving tribute to pastoral heritage, where the countryside itself takes centre stage. Le Jardin d'Ajar refers to the highly stylized and geometrically precise formal gardens that have come to define classical French landscaping. Often seen in royal estates like Versailles, these gardens are not wild or natural, they are controlled, symmetrical and meticulously planned to reflect human dominance over nature. Shrubs are trimmed into perfect shapes, pathways are laid out in harmonious lines, and fountains are centered with mathematical elegance. The concept dates back to the 17th century, when figures like André Le Nôtre elevated garden design to an art form. Unlike English gardens, which often celebrate organic, meandering paths and natural scenery, the Jardin d'Arimont is a visual representation of order, reason, and aesthetic power. These gardens served as political symbols, showcasing the wealth and intellect of their owners. Today, they remain cultural landmarks and tourist attractions, inspiring awe not just for their beauty, but for the philosophy they embody, symmetry as serenity and nature shaped by the mind. Les lavoirs are public stone washhouses, once found in nearly every French village, standing as quiet witnesses to daily life in pre-industrial France. These open-air or roofed structures, typically situated by natural springs or streams, were essential gathering places where women came to wash clothes by hand, often scrubbing garments against sloped stones and rinsing them in the communal water basins. But beyond their utility, lavoirs were social spaces, a kind of open-air forum where village news, gossip and laughter flowed as freely as the water. Many date back to the 18th and 19th centuries, built with care and pride by local masons, some adorned with intricate stonework or modest architectural flourishes. Though they fell out of use with the rise of indoor plumbing and washing machines, many lavoirs have been restored as cultural landmarks. Today, they evoke a sense of nostalgia for a time when communities revolved around shared labour, rhythm and ritual. Le Palais Idéal du Facteur Cheval is one of France's most eccentric and inspiring monuments, a fantastical stone palace built entirely by a single rural mailman, Ferdinand Cheval, over the course of 33 years. Located in Outerive in southeastern France, the structure is a swirling dreamscape of castles, temples, staircases and grottos, all assembled from rocks Cheval collected during his daily 18-mile postal route. With no formal training in architecture or masonry, he let his imagination lead, blending Hindu, Egyptian and medieval motifs into a poetic collage of fantasy and persistence. Built between 1879 and 1912, the palace defies categorization, standing as a monument to visionary art and raw creative obsession. Cheval worked mostly at night, driven by a personal vow and an unshakable vision. Today, the Palais Ideal is celebrated as a masterpiece of art brut, or outsider art, a testament to what one pair of hands can create with time, faith, and boundless imagination. Les Catacombes de Paris form a chilling and fascinating underworld beneath the bustling city streets, where over 6 million Parisians have found their final resting place. Originally part of vast limestone quarries that helped construct the city above, These tunnels were repurposed in the late 18th century as overflowing cemeteries threatened public health. Bones were carefully exhumed and arranged into walls of skulls and femurs, forming eerie corridors that stretch for miles. Far from a mere mass grave, the catacombs were organized with macabre artistry, often accompanied by carved inscriptions, biblical quotes, and poetic reflections on death. While only a small section is open to the public, the full network is immense, attracting urban explorers and myth-makers alike. The catacombs stand as both a morbid reminder of mortality and a remarkable feat of logistical engineering, offering a silent city beneath the city, one that speaks volumes about how Paris remembers its dead. Le Viaduc de Millau is not just a bridge, it's a modern engineering marvel and the tallest bridge in the world, soaring gracefully across the Tarn Valley in southern France. Designed by British architect Norman Foster and French engineer Michel Virlejeu, the bridge reaches a staggering height of 343 metres, 125 feet, even taller than the Eiffel Tower. Completed in 2004, it was built to solve the traffic bottlenecks caused by vacationers en route to the Mediterranean. What makes the viaduct truly awe-inspiring is its elegant design. A series of slender pylons and cable stays that give it the appearance of a floating thread in the sky. Despite its scale, the structure appears weightless, harmonizing with the rolling landscape below. It represents the pinnacle of modern French infrastructure, functional, beautiful, and bold. Driving across it feels less like commuting and more like flying, a rare moment where utility and aesthetics merge into a breathtaking experience. Les Bourrées are ancient dry stone huts found scattered across the Provence countryside, built without mortar using a prehistoric technique known as clochon construction. These small, beehive-shaped dwellings were traditionally used by shepherds, farmers and field workers for shelter or storage. The stones, stacked with skillful balance, form domes and arches that have survived centuries of wind and weather. Their dry stone technique dates back thousands of years, making each hut a living artifact of rural craftsmanship. Incredibly sturdy, many bourrées remain intact today, blending seamlessly with the limestone hills and olive groves around them. Their simplicity is deceptive. The architectural know-how required to create a watertight, self-supporting structure without cement is profound. These huts speak to a way of life in which sustainability, resourcefulness and harmony with the land were necessities. Now protected as part of France's rural heritage, bourrées offer a quiet yet powerful reminder of human ingenuity, in tune with nature. Les Alignements de Carnac are among the most mysterious prehistoric sites in Europe. Thousands of standing stones arranged in parallel rows stretching for miles across the Brittany landscape. These megaliths, some over 7,000 years old, predate Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids, yet their purpose remains shrouded in speculation. Were they part of an astronomical observatory, a religious site, or a monumental cemetery? The precision and scale suggest significant cultural and ceremonial importance to the Neolithic peoples who erected them. Some stones stand upright while others have toppled with time, and their alignment with celestial events continues to intrigue archaeologists and spiritual seekers alike. Walking among the rows is a surreal experience, as the stones seem to hum with ancient silence. The Carnac alignments are protected as a national monument, and while theories abound, the truth behind their creation remains one of France's most enduring enigmas, a majestic relic of a civilization lost to time. Le Village de Bourrées near Gordes is a remarkable open-air museum preserving an entire hamlet of restored dry stone dwellings. Once a seasonal village for farmers and shepherds, it fell into disuse by the 19th century before being painstakingly revived in the 1970 SS. The bourrées here include homes, animal shelters, bread ovens and storage buildings, all built using the traditional stone stacking method that requires no mortar. What sets this site apart is the sheer concentration of these timeless structures, laid out in a way that offers a full view of how rural Provençal communities once lived, worked and survived. Surrounded by olive trees and lavender fields, the village feels like a step back in time. The cool interiors and low doorways reflect the practical needs of their builders, emphasizing durability and temperature control. As a cultural site, Le Village des Bories is more than an architectural curiosity. It's a snapshot of a forgotten rhythm of life. Les Ouatans zinc, or zinc rooftops, are a defining feature of the Parisian skyline, lending the city its silvery, soft blue shimmer under cloudy skies. Introduced during Baron Haussmann's 19th-century renovation of Paris, zinc was chosen for its lightweight, durability and ease of installation on the steep-sloped roofs of new apartment buildings. The uniformity of these rooftops, punctuated by chimney stacks and ornate dormer windows, became an aesthetic hallmark of Paris. Viewed from above, especially from landmarks like Montmartre or the Centre Pompidou, the zinc roofs create a sea of undulating metal that glows in the rain and glistens in twilight. More than beautiful, they are also functional, aiding water runoff and thermal regulation in a city that sees both summer heat and winter frost. In recent years, these rooftops have been recognized as cultural heritage, with some advocates even pushing for their inclusion on the UNESCO World Heritage List, a fitting honor for something so subtly iconic. Le Fer de Cordouan, often called the Versailles of the Sea, is a lighthouse like no other, equal parts navigational aid and architectural marvel. Located at the mouth of the Gironde estuary on the Atlantic coast, it has stood since the early 17th century, making it the oldest still operational lighthouse in France. Designed with Renaissance flair, it features a chapel, royal apartments, and elaborate stonework, reflecting the grandeur of a period when lighthouses were both spiritual beacons and symbols of state power. To reach it, visitors must traverse shifting tides and sandbanks, often by boat, adding to its mythic allure. Inside, a spiral staircase leads up through chambers of history, culminating in a lantern that still casts its warning glow across the waters. In 2021, it was inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List, recognizing its blend of technical brilliance and cultural significance. Cordouan is more than a lighthouse. It's a beacon of artistry, endurance, and maritime heritage. Les Cabanes Trinquées are iconic wooden huts raised on stilts above the tidal flats of Arcachon Bay off France's Atlantic coast. Originally built in the 19th century to house oyster wardens who monitored shellfish beds, these weathered cabins now serve as symbols of the region's maritime identity. Their stilts protect them from high tides and allow for panoramic views of the bay, where oyster farming remains a vital local industry. Painted in stark blacks and reds, the cabanes are both functional and picturesque, often photographed against the golden hues of sunrise or the deep blues of incoming tide. Only a handful remain today, carefully preserved and sometimes privately owned, accessible only by boat. Their presence speaks to a life governed by tides, salt, and patience, a rhythm dictated not by clocks, but by the pull of the sea. To locals, they are more than huts. They are watchful sentinels of a way of life both rugged and poetic. Le Cadavre Exquise, or the Exquisite Corpse, is a surrealist parlour game that became a cornerstone of avant-garde creativity in early 20th century France. Invented by artists and poets like André Breton and Marcel Duchamp, the game involves multiple people contributing to a single piece of artwork or writing, each unaware of what the others have added. The paper is folded so that only a small portion of the previous contribution is visible, resulting in a bizarre and unexpected composite image or sentence, like, "The exquisite corpse shall drink the new wine," the phrase that gave the game its name. Originally used as a playful tool for breaking creative boundaries, it evolved into a profound experiment in subconscious expression and collective imagination. The beauty of Le Cadavre Exquise lies in its unpredictability and collaborative magic, where randomness becomes revelation and the absurd takes on poetic form. Even today, artists and writers continue to explore it as a joyful rebellion against logic and control. Le Très Riche Eau de Duc de Berry is widely considered the pinnacle of medieval manuscript illumination, blending devotion, art, and aristocratic opulence into one of the most visually stunning books ever created. Commissioned by Jean, Duke of Berry in the early 15th century, the manuscript is a lavishly decorated book of hours, essentially a prayer book for private devotion, illustrated by the Limburg brothers, who were master artists of their time. Each page bursts with intricate miniatures, from scenes of saints and biblical narratives to astoundingly detailed depictions of seasonal life on the Duke's estates. These calendar pages, with their golden hues and architectural flourishes, serve as both spiritual guide and historical document, capturing everything from peasant labour to courtly life. The manuscript stands as a rare confluence of piety and pageantry, where every stroke of the brush illuminates not just the parchment, but the world view of a medieval nobleman whose reach extended from heaven to earth. Le Musée de la Chasse et de la Nature in Paris is one of the city's most peculiar and intriguing museums, offering a lavish, immersive dive into the world of hunting and its cultural symbolism. Housed in two elegant 17th-century mansions in the Marais district, the museum blends classical opulence with modern surrealism. Its rooms are filled with antique firearms, mythological tapestries, interactive exhibits, and a haunting array of taxidermy animals, posed in naturalistic or sometimes unsettling scenes. The museum doesn't simply glorify the hunt, it explores humanity's complex relationship with nature, domination, reverence, and extinction, through the lenses of history, art, and ethics. Contemporary artists are regularly invited to reinterpret the space, creating juxtapositions that provoke thought and dialogue. It's not unusual to see a glowing stag head mounted beside a 17th-century boar spear, or a room where owls seem to silently judge the viewer. In this way, the museum is not just a collection, it's a living, breathing, philosophical tableau. Le Théâtre de l'Absurde is a French term that defines a post-World War II movement in theatre where traditional narratives dissolve into existential spirals and meaning collapses into absurdity. Influenced by the horrors and disillusionments of the 20th century, playwrights like Eugene Ionesco and Samuel Beckett reimagined theatre as a space where logic falters and communication breaks down. In Beckett's Waiting for Godot, two characters wait endlessly for someone who never comes, while in Ionesco's The Bald Soprano, language disintegrates into nonsense. These plays often feature barren settings, repetitive dialogue, and circular plots, confronting audiences with the futility, alienation, and absurdity of modern life. But far from being nihilistic, Le Théâtre de l'Absurde uses humour and surrealism to explore deeply human themes: loneliness, time, and the search for meaning. It's less about providing answers and more about making audiences feel the weight of the questions. The movement left a lasting impact on world drama, philosophy, and avant-garde performance. Le Salon des Refuses was a radical turning point in art history, a bold exhibition held in 1863 to showcase works rejected by the official Paris Salon, the prestigious annual art show of the Académie des Beaux-Arts. That year, so many pieces were turned away, many for their perceived modernist tendencies, that public outcry prompted Emperor Napoleon III to authorize a separate space where the rejected could be seen. Among them was Édouard Manet's Le Déjeuner sur l'herbe, a painting that scandalized viewers with its depiction of a nude woman casually lunching with clothed men in a contemporary setting. Though mocked at first, the Salon des Refuses laid the groundwork for Impressionism, modern art, and the redefinition of aesthetic values. It marked a rebellion against rigid academic standards and opened the door for experimentation and individual expression. Today, it's remembered not just as an exhibition of castaways, but as the birthplace of artistic revolution. Les Ennumeurs are the brilliant, jewel-toned illuminations that grace medieval manuscripts, transforming ordinary texts into sacred, radiant works of art. These miniature paintings, often executed in gold leaf and vivid pigments, decorated the margins, initials, and full pages of religious and literary manuscripts from the early Middle Ages through the Renaissance. Created by anonymous monastic scribes or professional ateliers, they served both aesthetic and symbolic purposes, illuminating not just the physical page, but the spiritual meaning of the words. A single manuscript could take years to complete, involving calligraphers, painters, and gilders working in careful harmony. Subjects ranged from biblical scenes and saints to whimsical animals and mythological creatures, often layered with coded meaning. While many were devotional tools, others recorded scientific, historical, or legal knowledge. Today, les Illuminaires are preserved in museums and libraries as precious artifacts of medieval intellect, devotion, and artistry, where every detail, no matter how small, was painted to endure time and transcend darkness. Le Caveau de la Huchette is a legendary jazz club nestled in the Latin Quarter of Paris, unlike any other in the world. Housed in a medieval cellar that once served as a secret meeting place for Templar knights and later a Masonic lodge, the club opened in 1949 and quickly became a magnet for jazz aficionados. With its vaulted stone ceilings, winding staircases, and torchlit ambience, the space feels more like an underground labyrinth than a concert hall. But when the music starts, be it swing, bebop, or modern fusion, the room comes alive with energy and rhythm. Musicians from across the globe have performed here, and it was even featured in the film La La Land. Beyond its reputation as a hotspot for jazz lovers, the Caveau represents a fusion of old-world mystique and modern expression. It's a place where time collapses and history dances, quite literally, to the beat of improvisation. Le Jardin des Plantes Ménageries in Paris is one of the oldest zoos in the world, dating back to 1794 during the French Revolution. Located within the sprawling Jardin des Plantes Botanical Gardens, the menagerie was initially formed when exotic animals from the Royal Menagerie at Versailles were transferred to the public after the monarchy's fall. Unlike modern zoos, which often emphasize large enclosures and immersive environments, this one maintains its historical layout, complete with elegant pavilions and wrought iron cages that speak to another era. Home to a variety of species from red pandas to reptiles, it's a charming blend of 19th century architecture and contemporary conservation. While smaller and more modest than newer zoological parks, the menagerie holds a unique atmosphere, both nostalgic and educational. Walking through its shaded paths is like stepping into a living cabinet of curiosities, where animals and history cohabit in quiet, leafy harmony. Les Machines de Lille in Nantes is a fantastical fusion of science fiction, industrial art, and Jules Verne-inspired whimsy, a cultural theme park like no other. Built on the site of former shipyards along the Loire River, this imaginative project features enormous, rideable mechanical creatures, including a massive, 12-metre-tall elephant that carries passengers on its back as it trundles through the grounds. Part mechanical zoo, part performance art installation, the park includes creatures of the sea, sky, and imagination, such as giant spiders and herons with flapping wings. Inspired by both the writings of Verne, a native of Nantes, and the mechanical world of Leonardo da Vinci, the Machines de Lille invite visitors to interact with art on a colossal scale. Engineers, sculptors, and puppeteers work in full view, making the creative process part of the experience. It's not merely a theme park, it's a living workshop of fantasy, invention, and kinetic dreams. Le Mur des Je t'aime, or the Wall of I Love Yous, is a poetic monument nestled in the romantic Montmartre district of Paris. Created by artists Frédéric Baron and Claire Quito, the wall features the phrase "I love you" written 1,000 times in over 250 languages, each inscribed in white on deep blue tiles. Measuring 40 square meters, the wall is more than just a celebration of love, it's a declaration of linguistic and emotional unity across cultures. Tiny red fragments scattered throughout the mural symbolize pieces of a broken heart that the wall hopes to mend. Built on the site of a former square, it serves as a serene meeting place for couples and travelers seeking a quiet moment of reflection. Unlike grand monuments or religious shrines, this one honors the universality of affection and the simple power of words. It stands as a gentle multilingual testament that love, spoken in any tongue, is always worth saying. Les Bouquinistes are one of the most charming and iconic features of the Parisian landscape, lining the banks of the Seine with their unmistakable green metal boxes. These riverside booksellers, whose presence dates back to the 16th century, offer a treasure trove of second-hand books, vintage prints, postcards, and literary curiosities. Officially recognized as part of the city's cultural heritage, they hold a special place in the hearts of Parisians and visitors alike. Each bouquiniste is assigned a specific stretch of railing along the river and abides by long-standing rules about the size and appearance of their stalls. The experience of browsing their wares, amid the sounds of street musicians and the sight of Notre Dame's silhouette, is like stepping into a living poem. These open-air bookstores are more than retail spaces. They're a celebration of Paris as a city of readers, dreamers and collectors, where literature floats on the breeze alongside riverboats and cathedral bells. Le Passe-Muraille, or The Man Who Walked Through Walls, is a whimsical bronze statue embedded in the wall of Montmartre, based on a short story by French author Marcel Aimé. The statue depicts a man mid-stride, his body partly fused with the stone as if caught in the act of passing through. The tale it references is about a government clerk who discovers he can walk through walls, only to one day lose his power and become trapped forever. Installed near Aimé's former home, the statue is both a literary homage and a playful urban curiosity. Visitors often pose with it or rub the hand that juts out, a ritual said to bring good luck. As with much of Montmartre, where art and legend intermingle on every corner, Le Passe-Muraille invites reflection on the magical and the mundane, how a simple street wall can transform into a portal for storytelling, mischief, and imagination. Les Ballons were an extraordinary feat of ingenuity during the siege of Paris in 1870, when the city was encircled by Prussian forces and cut off from the outside world. With no other means of communication, the French resorted to launching manned hot air balloons, known as ballons montés, to carry mail, passengers, and even carrier pigeons over enemy lines. Each balloon flight was perilous, subject to shifting winds and enemy fire, yet they successfully delivered millions of letters and crucial messages, maintaining morale and connectivity during the darkest days of the Franco-Prussian War. These missions turned balloonists into national heroes and showcased the daring spirit of a besieged but unyielding city. Today they're remembered not just for their daring aviation, but for the way they captured the imagination of a nation. In the annals of wartime communication, Les Ballons remain a soaring symbol of resistance, innovation, and the human will to connect. Le Tacot refers to France's charming but now mostly vanished narrow-gauge railways that once crisscrossed the countryside, connecting small villages with the broader national network. These little trains, often slow and noisy, were affectionately nicknamed tacots, a term that evokes something old, rickety, but beloved. Built between the late 19th and early 20th centuries, they brought mobility to rural areas, carrying both passengers and livestock, linking isolated hamlets to marketplaces and city centres. With their diminutive locomotives and clattering carriages, they were more than transportation, they were lifelines. Many lines were dismantled in the mid-20th century as cars and buses became dominant, but a few have been preserved as tourist attractions, offering scenic rides through vineyards, mountains, and pastoral landscapes. Riding a tacot today is like stepping back into another era, where speed was secondary to scenery, and the rhythmic clack of wheels on track offered a soothing soundtrack to life's slower pace. Le Télégraphe Chap was a revolutionary 18th-century communication system that predated the electric telegraph and played a crucial role in France's military and administrative networks during the Napoleonic era. Invented by Claude Chap, this optical telegraph consisted of towers equipped with movable arms that relayed coded signals across long distances using semaphore. Operators would use telescopes to read the signals from neighbouring towers and replicate the message down the line, allowing dispatches to travel from Paris to distant cities in mere hours, an astonishing speed at the time. Though now obsolete, these towers once dotted the French countryside like sentinels of the Enlightenment. A few still stand today, preserved as monuments to early telecommunication. The Télégraphie Chapée is a reminder that the drive to connect, to transmit information swiftly and reliably, has long been part of the human story, and that even before wires or satellites, we were building networks in the sky. Les autoroutes gratuites are a rare breed in a country known for its toll-heavy motorway system. Most French highways charge drivers at toll booths, often hefty fees depending on the distance, but a select few remain free, including the scenic A75, which runs through the rugged landscapes of the Massif Central. Nicknamed La Méridienne, the A75 is not only toll-free, but also crosses the Millau Viaduct, the tallest bridge in the world. These free autoroutes are often maintained as part of regional development strategies, aimed at improving access to remote areas and reducing economic disparities between urban and rural zones. For locals and budget-conscious travelers, they're a welcome anomaly. An open road without a price tag. In a country where convenience often comes at a cost, Les Autos de Frontière feel like a throwback to a time when mobility was considered a public good rather than a privilege, offering freedom without the meter ticking. La Ligne de Petite Ceinture, or the Little Belt Line, is an abandoned 19th century railway that once looped around Paris, connecting various neighbourhoods before the advent of the modern metro. Built between 1852 and 1869, it originally served both passenger and freight traffic, but was eventually overshadowed by underground trains and new transportation networks. For decades, the line lay dormant, its tracks overgrown with wild flowers and graffiti-covered walls. In recent years, parts of it have been revitalized as a public greenway, an urban oasis where joggers, walkers, and dreamers escape the buzz of city life. With its ivy-covered tunnels and forgotten platforms, La Petite Ceinture offers a unique blend of industrial relic and secret garden. It's a place where history is left to breathe, where Paris shows its quieter, more mysterious side. For those who find romance in rust and beauty in decay, this reclaimed railway is a poetic escape route into another version of the city. Le Canot Rouge refers to the vibrant red rental boats found in the tranquil pond of the Jardin du Luxembourg in Paris, a beloved pastime for children and families alike. These small, classic sailboats aren't motorized or rowed. Instead, kids use sticks to gently push them across the water, watching as the breeze catches their sails. The tradition dates back to the 1920s and continues to be a staple of Parisian childhood. Operated by generations of the same family, the boats come in various colors and national flags, sparking small races and friendly competition. Though simple in form, the experience captures the timeless charm of the Luxembourg Gardens, a place where marble statues, tree-lined promenades, and meticulously trimmed hedges provide the backdrop for this innocent joy. Watching the red canoes drift lazily across the pond feels like watching memories in motion, an enduring ritual of leisure, imagination, and Parisian elegance on a miniature scale. Les Vélos, on libre service or self-service bicycles, were pioneered in France long before they became fixtures in cities around the world. Paris's Vélib system, launched in 2007, was one of the largest and most ambitious at the time, offering thousands of bicycles available for short-term rental from automated stations scattered throughout the city. The system was revolutionary in its accessibility and environmental intent, aimed at reducing car traffic and promoting a healthier, greener urban lifestyle. But France's experimentation with public bikes began even earlier, in the 1970s in cities like La Rochelle, where municipal leaders saw the potential for shared cycling. These programs inspired similar systems in London, New York, and Beijing. Today, les vélos en libre service are deeply embedded in French city life, allowing commuters, tourists, and weekend wanderers to explore at their own pace. They reflect a modern French ethos of urban sustainability, where freedom of movement meets ecological responsibility on two wheels. Le Funiculaire de Montmartre is a quaint yet highly functional piece of public transport in Paris, ferrying passengers up the steep hill of Montmartre to the steps of the Sacré-Cœur Basilica. Opened in 1900 and modernized several times since, the funicular glides along its short track, saving visitors a strenuous climb while offering panoramic views of the city as they ascend. Unlike a cable car or a traditional train, the Montmartre funicular operates more like an elevator on rails, efficient, smooth, and accessible. It carries millions of passengers annually and is fully integrated into the Paris Metro ticketing system. Beyond its utility, it's also steeped in charm, nestled between staircases and stone walls, watched over by street artists and musicians. The ride, though brief, adds a touch of magic to the Montmartre experience, embodying the blend of art, history, and practicality that defines so much of Parisian life. Les Braguettes Codifiées refer to the fashion phenomenon of the codpiece in 15th and 16th century Europe, which reached particular extravagance in France. Originally a practical solution to cover the gap between the top of hose garments, the codpiece evolved into a padded, often decorated appendage that emphasized male virility and status. Over time, it became more than a clothing item. It was a declaration. Embroidered, armored, or even jewel-studded codpieces grew into symbolic armor of masculinity and political power. In French courts, elaborate codpieces were sometimes matched with ceremonial robes, blending functionality with theatrical flair. While today they may provoke amusement or shock, at the time they were codified elements of male dress, even mentioned in etiquette manuals. Their decline in the late 16th century marked a shift toward more restrained styles, but codpieces remain a vivid reminder of a time when fashion walked the line between utility, performance, and bold symbolism. Le basque is one of the most enduring symbols of French style and identity, though its roots trace back to the shepherds of the Basse region in southwestern France. Originally made from felted wool and dyed black or navy, the beret was prized for its warmth, durability, and water resistance. Ideal for protecting wearers against the region's changeable weather. Over time, the beret moved from the pastures into popular culture, adopted by everyone from revolutionaries and soldiers to artists and intellectuals. In the 20th century, it became a French fashion icon, worn by figures like Pablo Picasso, Ernest Hemingway, and countless chic Parisians. Today, the beret still carries layers of cultural meaning: traditional, bohemian, radical, or simply stylish. Whether tilted jauntily or worn with understated pride, it remains a fabric badge of French flair, bridging rustic origins with cosmopolitan cool in just one soft circular statement. Les bottes de sept lieues, the mythical seven-league boots, belong to the enchanted world of European folklore, where they allowed wearers to traverse vast distances in a single stride. Immortalized in tales like Charles Perrault's Le Petit Poucet, Tom Thumb, these magical boots gave heroes and villains alike the power to move at supernatural speeds, covering 7 leagues, about 21 miles, with every step. Though purely fictional, the phrase has endured in French culture as a metaphor for rapid progress or transformative leaps. The boots represent desire, freedom, and the power of escape, often appearing at pivotal moments in stories when the impossible must be achieved. Over time, they've leapt from folklore into broader cultural reference, inspiring everything from political speeches to athletic branding. In a modern context, to put on les bottes de sept lieues is to dream beyond limits and embrace the idea that even the farthest horizons might be reached in a single bound. La marinière, the blue and white striped sailor shirt, began as a French naval uniform in the mid-19th century, but rose to haute couture fame thanks to Coco Chanel. Originally introduced to help spot sailors who fell overboard, the marinière featured precisely 21 navy stripes, each said to represent one of Napoleon's victories. But it was Chanel who, during a seaside retreat in Deauville, reimagined it as a symbol of chic nonchalance, introducing it into her 1917 collection. Since then, it has become a staple of French fashion, timeless, effortless, and genderless. Worn by icons such as Brigitte Bardot, Jean Seberg, and Picasso, the marinière embodies the blend of function and elegance that defines so much of French style. Whether paired with jeans, tailored trousers, or a pencil skirt, its clean lines and nautical roots evoke the breezy sophistication of coastal France, making it a wardrobe classic that transcends time and trend. Les lunettes de myope, or the thick-rimmed glasses once associated with nearsighted intellectuals, have transformed from objects of utility and sometimes ridicule into fashionable cultural signifiers. In mid-20th century France, these bold frames were often seen perched on the noses of academics, existentialist philosophers, and bohemian artists, becoming shorthand for intellectual seriousness and countercultural cool. Figures like Jean-Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir helped immortalize the look, lending it an air of gravitas and cerebral mystery. The glasses, once purely functional, took on a stylized persona: the thinker, the rebel, the misunderstood genius. Over time, this image evolved, and the glasses entered the mainstream, adopted by fashion houses and streetwear alike. Now, they're as likely to be seen on models and designers as on university professors. Les lunettes de myope are no longer just for the bookish. They're a bold visual statement celebrating the aesthetics of thought and the beauty of brains. Le parapluie bourgeois is not just an umbrella, it's a symbol of urban elegance and class distinction, particularly in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. As Parisian society grew more refined and stratified, the compact, collapsible umbrella emerged as an accessory of the bourgeoisie, who prized practicality with a touch of flair. Unlike the larger utilitarian versions used by rural workers, the bourgeois umbrella was designed for walking through narrow boulevards in tailored coats and polished shoes, often made with fine wood handles and silk canopies. Carrying one, especially when it wasn't raining, became a social cue, a mark of readiness and refinement. Literature and film have long played with the image of the umbrella as a class prop, wielded with pride or comedic exaggeration. Today, the traditional French umbrella is still crafted by artisan houses like Maison Pigagnole, retaining its aura of craftsmanship and quiet prestige. Its shelter and symbol, form and function, all under one canopy. Les chaussures à poulain was some of the most flamboyant and impractical footwear ever to stride across the courts of medieval Europe. These pointed shoes, known as poulains, featured elongated toes that often curled upward or trailed dramatically behind the wearer. Popular in the 14th and 15th centuries, particularly among French nobility, the length of the point often signalled social rank. The longer the toe, the higher the status. Some poulains were so long they had to be reinforced with whalebone or tied to the leg to avoid tripping. Though mocked by some clergy as symbols of vanity and excess, poulains flourished as expressions of wealth and fashion audacity. Eventually banned for being too extravagant, they've never fully disappeared from the imagination, often resurfacing in costume dramas and fashion retrospectives. More than just shoes, les chaussures poulaines are historical reminders of how far people will go, quite literally, for the sake of style. Le foulard carré Hermès is the epitome of French luxury, a silk square scarf that has graced the necks, heads and handbags of royalty, celebrities and fashion lovers since 1937. Hand-printed using meticulous techniques and designed by renowned artists, each Hermès scarf is a wearable canvas, often inspired by themes ranging from equestrian heritage to botanical illustrations and global mythology. The scarf's square format, typically 90x 90 cm, offers endless styling possibilities, knotted around the neck, tied into a top, or framed as art. Worn by icons like Grace Kelly, Jackie Kennedy, and Catherine Deneuve, the foulard carré embodies both sophistication and versatility. More than an accessory, it has become a collectible item, a symbol of timeless elegance and French craftsmanship. Each scarf carries a legacy of tradition and innovation, merging heritage with haute couture in a way that feels both classic and endlessly fresh. In the world of luxury, few items speak as softly, yet as confidently. Les robes de chambre in 18th century France were not simply dressing gowns, they were elaborate garments that blended comfort with grandeur, worn by aristocrats and intellectuals during moments of privacy or semi-public leisure. Often made of rich silks, embroidered velvets, or exotic fabrics like damask and brocade, these robes reflected both personal taste and social status. Men wore them while entertaining guests at home, reading or conducting business in their salons. Women draped themselves in them as part of their daily rituals. They often featured dramatic sleeves, wide sashes, and intricate trimmings, blurring the line between loungewear and theatrical costume. Philosophers like Voltaire and Diderot were famously depicted in their robes de chambre, lending the garment a reputation for cultivated intellect. Today, the phrase may evoke images of cozy bathrobes, but in its original form, the robe de chambre was a symbol of private luxury and sartorial refinement, proof that elegance need not wait for the outside world. Les boutons de manchette, or cufflinks, emerged in 17th century France as refined fasteners for the sleeves of gentlemen's shirts, eventually becoming essential accessories for formal wear. Initially crafted from silk knots or simple metal rods, they evolved into intricate miniatures of personal taste, featuring enamel, gemstones, engraving, or even tiny cameos. During the 19th century, cufflinks became associated with the habile dress code, signalling wealth, attention to detail, and an adherence to sartorial codes. In France, they were often gifted on significant occasions, weddings, promotions, or coming-of-age milestones, adding layers of sentimental value to their practical use. Though the everyday use of cufflinks has waned with the rise of casual wear, they remain a staple of high fashion, business attire, and ceremonial events. Whether discreet and classic or bold and expressive, les boutons de manchette are subtle declarations of personality, nestled in a small but telling corner of a well-dressed life. La Bête du Gévaudan is one of France's most chilling and mysterious legends, centering around a series of brutal killings in the mountainous region of Gévaudan, now in Lozère, between 1764 and 1767. Eyewitnesses described the beast as a wolf-like creature of enormous size with reddish fur, black stripes, and an unusually powerful jaw, though some believed it to be something supernatural or even demonic. More than 100 people, mostly women and children, were reportedly killed, their bodies often mutilated in horrific ways. Despite military hunts and royal intervention ordered by King Louis XV, the creature evaded capture for years. Though a large wolf was eventually killed and declared the culprit, debate persists. Was it a particularly aggressive animal, a hyena smuggled from abroad, or something more mythic? The Bête du Gévaudan continues to capture imaginations in books, films, and folklore, standing as a haunting reminder of how fear, mystery, and nature intertwine in the human psyche. Les dragons de Provence dwell in the twilight between folklore and myth, often described as fire-breathing serpents or massive lizard-like beasts said to guard treasures deep within caves or remote forested hills. These creatures, rooted in medieval legends of southern France, were believed to inhabit the gorges and ravines of Provence, threatening villages or testing the bravery of knights. One of the most famous, the Tarasque, allegedly terrorized the town of Tarascon until it was subdued by Saint Martha, blending Christian allegory with ancient pagan fears. These dragons were often seen not just as physical threats, but as spiritual or moral obstacles, symbols of chaos, greed, or temptation to be conquered. Today, these myths survive in local festivals, statues, and place names, casting a magical sheen over the sun-drenched countryside. Whether imagined or metaphorical, Les Dragons de Provence represent the enduring power of storytelling to explain the unexplainable and dramatize the struggle between man and mystery. Le Masque de Fer, or the Man in the Iron Mask, is a figure shrouded in secrecy and speculation, a prisoner held in French jails from 1669 until his death in 1703, whose identity was kept so secret that he was forced to wear a mask, possibly made of velvet, but later mythologized as iron. His existence was first brought to public attention by Voltaire, and later popularized by Alexandre Dumas, who wove the tale into his famous Three Musketeers saga, suggesting the masked man was the twin brother of King Louis XIV. Historians have since speculated he may have been a disgraced nobleman, a valet with compromising secrets, or even an illegitimate member of the royal family. What remains certain is that his identity was known only to a few, and his treatment, strict isolation, masked concealment, and heavily guarded transfers, suggest the threat he posed was not physical but political. The mystery endures, tantalizing generations with the question, who was the man behind the mask? La Malédiction des Pharaons, or the Pharaoh's Curse, took on a distinct French twist in the 19th and early 20th centuries, when mummified remains and Egyptian artifacts were brought to France and displayed in institutions like the Louvre. While much of the modern curse mythology is linked to the opening of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, whispers of curses circulated earlier in France, especially after reports of sudden illnesses or misfortunes befalling archaeologists, collectors, and even visitors. In particular, several mummies acquired by French museums were rumoured to bring strange occurrences, flickering lights, inexplicable accidents, and eerie sensations around their display cases. Though scientists dismissed these as coincidences or the result of ancient mould and toxins, public fascination grew, feeding into colonial-era exoticism and fear. Today, while rational explanations prevail, the idea of la malédiction des pharaons lingers, casting a faint supernatural glow over Egyptology's glamorous and ghostly past in French collections. Le Trésor de Rennes-le-Château is one of France's most enduring treasure legends, centered on the tiny hilltop village in the Languedoc region. In the late 19th century, Béranger Saunière, a humble parish priest, suddenly began extravagant renovations to his church, constructed ornate buildings, and lived far beyond his means, fueling rumours that he had discovered a hidden treasure or secret documents of immense value. Some believe he uncovered a Visigothic or Templar hoard, others that he stumbled upon coded knowledge implicating the church or revealing descendants of Christ. The mystery inspired a flood of conspiracy theories, many of which fed into the modern mythology behind the Da Vinci Code. Visitors to Rennes-le-Château still marvel at the oddly decorated church of St. Mary Magdalene, featuring cryptic symbols, unusual inscriptions, and a statue of a demon supporting the holy water font. Whether hoax, coincidence, or genuine enigma, the Trésor remains buried, perhaps only metaphorically, beneath layers of legend and speculation. Les Enfants de la Lune, or Children of the Moon, is the poetic name given in France to children born with xeroderma pigmentosum, a rare genetic condition that renders them extremely sensitive to ultraviolet light. Even brief exposure to sunlight can cause severe skin damage or increase cancer risk, forcing these children to live nocturnally or under special UV blueking protection. The name evokes both beauty and melancholy, framing these children not as victims, but as luminous beings with a unique connection to the night. In recent years, public awareness campaigns and documentaries in France have brought visibility to the condition, portraying the courage and adaptation of affected families. Specialized camps and school accommodations have been created, allowing children to experience social life safely, often under moonlight. The term enfant de la lune reflects not just a medical reality, but a compassionate cultural effort to cloak a rare disorder in dignity and wonder. La Pierre de Rosette, or Rosetta Stone, is an ancient Egyptian granodiorite slab inscribed with the same decree in 3 scripts, Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphic, that allowed scholars to finally decipher ancient Egyptian writing. Though discovered by a French soldier during Napoleon's Egyptian campaign in 1799, it was ultimately seized by the British and is now housed in the British Museum. However, its intellectual decoding was a distinctly French triumph, thanks to Jean-François Champollion, who used his deep understanding of Coptic and his analytical brilliance to unlock the key to hieroglyphs in 1822. His work revolutionized Egyptology and gave the world access to thousands of years of previously indecipherable history. While debates over the stone's rightful ownership continue, France retains pride in Champollion's legacy and often highlights it in museum displays and academic discourse. The Pierre de Rosette stands as a paradox, physically removed from France, but intellectually and culturally engraved in its scholarly heritage. Le Chevalier d'Eon was one of the most intriguing figures of 18th century France, a diplomat, soldier and spy who lived the first half of life as a man and the second as a woman. Born Charles Geneviève Louis-Auguste André Timothée d'Eon de Beaumont, the Chevalier was a master of disguise and intrigue, often sent on secret missions under King Louis XV, particularly in Russia and England. Rumours about d'Eon's gender swirled for decades, with betting pools in London speculating on the truth. Eventually, d'Eon insisted on being recognised as a woman, claiming to have been born female but raised as a boy due to inheritance laws. The French court complied, albeit with strict dress codes and social constraints. After death, a post-mortem revealed male anatomy, adding yet another twist to an already fluid identity. Today, d'Eon is celebrated as a queer and trans icon ahead of their time, a living paradox of gender, power and performance in a world that struggled to define them. La Légion étrangère, or French Foreign Legion, is a legendary military unit founded in 1831 to absorb foreign recruits into service for France, often granting citizenship in return for exemplary conduct. Its motto, Legio Patria Nostra, the Legion is our homeland, reflects the ethos of loyalty to brotherhood over birthplace. Initially stationed in colonial Algeria, the Legion became known for its grueling training, fierce combat reputation, and romantic image of lost men finding redemption through discipline and hardship. Volunteers from all over the world, exiles, adventurers, fugitives, and seekers have passed through its ranks, forming a brotherhood forged not by nationality, but by shared endurance. While the modern Legion operates under strict regulations and with increasing transparency, its mystique endures. A force where anonymity is honoured and past lives are left behind. For many, La Légion étrangère represents both the darker edges of empire and a peculiar, noble idea that a new identity can be earned, not born. Le Mur des Fédères is a solemn and symbolic site located in Père-Lachaise Cemetery in Paris, where 147 members of the Paris Commune were executed in May 1871 after the insurrection was crushed by government forces. The wall, pock-marked and unassuming, has since become a sacred place of remembrance for socialists, anarchists, and labour activists who view the communards as martyrs of justice, equality, and resistance to authoritarian. Every year, on the anniversary of their deaths, leftist groups and political organisations gather to lay flowers and commemorate their sacrifice. The Paris Commune, though short-lived, remains one of the most radical democratic experiments in modern history, and the Mur des Fédères is its lasting monument, a place where ideas and blood once met in brutal finality. Amid the grandeur of Père-Lachaise's mausoleums and celebrity graves, this wall stands quietly defiant, a stone canvas of rebellion where silence remembers the roar of revolution. Le Pendule de Foucault is one of the most elegant and accessible demonstrations of Earth's rotation ever devised. Installed in the Pantheon in Paris in 1851 by French physicist Léon Foucault, the pendulum consists of a heavy metal bob suspended from a long wire, swinging in a fixed direction while the Earth rotates beneath it. Over time, observers can see the pendulum's plane of swing slowly shift, not because the pendulum changes direction, but because the floor beneath it does. This groundbreaking experiment provided tangible proof that Earth rotates on its axis, something that had previously only been inferred through astronomical observations. Today, the original pendulum no longer swings at the Pantheon, but replicas around the world continue to demonstrate the same principle. Foucault's pendulum is more than a scientific instrument, it's a poetic metaphor for unseen forces, a visual harmony between physics and motion, and a profound reminder of our planet's place in space. Le Mètre Étalon represents the birth of modern measurement and France's foundational role in the development of the metric system. In the wake of the French Revolution, when egalitarian ideals extended to everything from governance to units of measure, scientists define the metre as 1/10,000,000th of the distance from the equator to the North Pole along a meridian. To make this abstract idea concrete, physical standards, meters étalons, were cast in platinum and later in brass and embedded in public spaces so citizens could verify their rulers against a national benchmark. One such bar can still be found near the gates of the Paris Observatory, a quiet relic of the Enlightenment. This shift away from arbitrary units like feet or cubits was revolutionary, promoting consistency in science, trade, and daily life. The metre étalon isn't just a measure, it's a symbol of reason, order, and the quest for universal standards in a world previously shaped by local customs. La Pasteurisation is one of France's greatest contributions to global health, developed by Louis Pasteur in the 19th century. Originally applied to wine and beer to prevent spoilage, the process involves heating liquids to a specific temperature to kill harmful microorganisms without compromising taste. Pasteur's method quickly expanded to milk, drastically reducing outbreaks of diseases like tuberculosis and brucellosis. The process revolutionized food safety and shelf life, laying the foundation for modern microbiology and preventive medicine. Pasteur's discoveries also led to vaccines for rabies and anthrax, earning him status as one of science's most influential figures. Far beyond a sterilization technique, La Pasteurisation represents a moment when science intersected with everyday life to preserve not just products, but lives. A quiet, constant shield in every glass of milk or sip of cider. Les nains de jardin or garden gnomes, are whimsical fixtures of French gardens with origins in Alsace, where local folklore and Germanic traditions merged into charming statuettes. Originally crafted from terracotta and hand-painted, these figures depicted cheerful bearded men engaged in simple rural tasks, raking, fishing, or dozing among the cabbages. While the idea of placing protective figures in gardens dates back centuries, the Alsatian adaptation in the 19th century gave birth to the modern garden gnome. Over time, they spread across Europe, becoming kitschy symbols of rural nostalgia and suburban eccentricity. In France, they've also been the target of humorous subversion, notably by the Front de Liberanger des Noms de Jardin, a tongue-in-cheek movement dedicated to freeing gnomes from captivity by relocating them to forests. Whether embraced as charming or mocked as quaint, les nains de jardin endure as cultural icons, silent guardians of vegetables, flowers and imagination nestle beneath rosebushes and sunflowers. Le cinématographe, invented by the Lumière brothers in the 1890s, was the world's first viable motion picture camera and projector, a technological marvel that gave birth to cinema as we know it. Unlike Edison's earlier kinetoscope, which was limited to individual viewing, the Lumière's device allowed for the projection of moving images onto a screen, making shared cinematic experiences possible. Their first public screening, held in 1895 at the Salon Indien of the Grand Café in Paris, included short films like L'arrivée d'un train en gare de la Ciotat, which allegedly startled audiences with its lifelike realism. The device was compact, hand-cranked and multifunctional, able to film, develop and project, making it revolutionary in both design and impact. From those first black and white reels, a global art form was born. Le cinématographe wasn't just an invention, it was a cultural spark that lit the screen of modern imagination, forever changing how we see, share and remember the world. Le Taxider Maurice Deyerol is a Parisian institution where science, art and natural history converge in the most surreal and refined fashion. Established in 1831, the Deyerol boutique on Rue du Bac is unlike any other shop, a cabinet of curiosities brought to life with meticulously preserved animals, glass cases of butterflies, educational posters and antique scientific tools. Stepping inside feels like entering a Victorian dream world, where zebras and tigers stare down from panelled walls and beetles shimmer in kaleidoscopic arrays. While Deyerol has long supplied specimens to museums and schools, it has also become a cultural touchstone, frequented by artists, philosophers and fashion designers. Salvador Dali and Claude Lévi-Strauss were known admirers. After a devastating fire in 2008, the shop was lovingly restored, affirming its place as a sanctuary of natural wonder in the heart of the city. Le Taxidermiste Deyerol is more than a store. It's a poetic, immersive homage to nature's complexity and beauty, frozen in time. Le premier cœur artificiel, or the first fully implantable artificial heart, was a landmark of medical innovation led by French surgeon and bioengineer Alain Carpentier. Developed over several decades and first successfully implanted in a human patient in 2013, this heart represented a major breakthrough in the treatment of end-stage heart failure. Unlike earlier mechanical pumps, Carpentier's design mimicked the natural rhythm and flexibility of a real heart, using biological materials and sensors to adapt to the body's needs in real time. Created in collaboration with the biomedical firm Carmat, the device reflected France's leading role in medical engineering and biotechnology. Though still experimental and rare, the artificial heart marked a hopeful frontier in organ replacement science. Carpentier's achievement isn't just a triumph of surgery, it's a profound symbol of what human ingenuity and compassion can build when facing the limits of the body. In France, the invention was hailed as Le Cœur Miracle, the miracle heart. Les Oeufs Interdits highlights France's cautious stance toward genetically modified organisms, particularly in agriculture. While many countries embraced GM crops for increased yield or resistance to pests, France imposed strict bans and heavy regulations, driven by concerns over ecological impact, corporate control of seeds, and health uncertainties. Since the early 2000s, French lawmakers, farmers, and environmental activists have engaged in heated debates, often staging symbolic protests like destroying test crops. The ban on cultivating GMO corn, such as MON 810, has remained a firm political stance, despite pressure from biotech companies and certain EU bodies. France's position reflects not only a precautionary approach to science, but a deep-rooted cultural value, respect for terroir, the unique relationship between land, tradition, and food. In French public discourse, les ormets interdits stand as a testament to the country's resistance to altering nature without consensus, and its prioritization of culinary and ecological heritage over convenience or profit. Le Minitel was a pioneering French online service that, long before the rise of the Internet, offered users access to information, shopping, messaging, and booking systems all via a beige terminal plugged into a landline. Launched nationwide in the early 1980 and distributed freely by the French Postal Service, Minitel allowed people to check train schedules, buy theatre tickets, and even flirt on early chat services. At its peak in the early 1990s, it had millions of users and over 25 zero services. Despite its limited graphics and slow speeds, it was decades ahead of its time, often cited as a proto-internet. France's early embrace of digital infrastructure through Minitel was both visionary and cautionary. It showed what centralized innovation could achieve, but perhaps also delayed France's adoption of the open internet. Minitel was officially retired in 2012, but it remains a proud emblem of French tech ingenuity, remembered fondly as the boxy little window into the future. La pilule bleue, or the blue pill, is the French nickname for Viagra, the little tablet that transformed the landscape of men's health and cultural attitudes toward aging, sexuality, and pharmaceutical intervention. When it arrived in France in the late 1990s, it sparked not just a medical revolution, but a social one, bringing once taboo conversations into the public sphere with characteristic French wit and candor. Known for its distinct color and discreet yet powerful effect, La pilule bleue quickly became a cultural touchpoint, referenced in films, comedies, and late-night talk shows. It entered the French lexicon not merely as a drug, but as a symbol of rejuvenation, confidence, and, occasionally, vanity. While it remains a regulated prescription medication, its mythic status has endured, often used metaphorically in discussions about masculinity, performance, and the desire to turn back time. In France, where love and libido are national pastimes, La pilule bleue found fertile ground and a permanent place in pop culture. La pétanque is more than just a leisurely game played under the plane trees of southern France. It's a sport governed by precise rules and deep regional pride. Played with steel balls, the objective is to toss or pitch them as close as possible to a small wooden target ball called the cochonnet, literally piglet. The game originated in Provence in the early 20th century as a variation of older boules games and quickly became a cultural staple, particularly among older men and local tournaments. Unlike its cousins, pétanque is played with a stationary stance, feet planted within a drawn circle, adding a layer of finesse and strategy to each throw. Players must navigate not only terrain and distance, but the psychological warfare of displacing opponents' balls or strategically blocking the field. Though it's often associated with casual social gatherings, La Pétanque is also an internationally regulated sport with world championships, uniting sun-drenched afternoons with fierce competition. Le Ballon de Rugby, A13 or Rugby League, is a lesser-known variant of rugby in France, distinguished from the more popular rugby union by its 13-player format, simplified rules, and faster pace. Introduced to France in the 1930s, it gained popularity especially in the south before being nearly eradicated during World War II, when the Vichy regime banned it and confiscated its assets, accusing it of professionalism which clashed with their ideals. Despite this dark chapter, the sport survived and continues to thrive in pockets of Occitanie, where fierce loyalty to local clubs like the Catalans, Dragons, remains strong. Matches are known for quick sets of tackles and fluid offensive strategies favouring speed and agility over brute force. While rugby league remains overshadowed by its 15-player sibling, Its story in France is one of resilience, community, and regional identity. It's a sport that, despite official opposition, has earned a rightful place in the French athletic mosaic. Le parcours, also known as l'art du déplacement, the art of movement, is a uniquely French discipline that turns urban environments into a playground for human agility and efficiency. Founded by David Bell in the 1990s and inspired by military obstacle training and his father's Vietnamese martial arts background, parkour emphasizes running, jumping, climbing, and vaulting fluidly through physical spaces. Practitioners, called traceurs, train to overcome architectural obstacles with grace and speed, leaping from rooftops, scaling walls, and rolling across concrete with athletic finesse. At its core, parkour is not about spectacle, but about mastering one's body and mind in real-world conditions, blending discipline with creativity. Though popularized through viral videos and action films, parkour maintains a philosophical foundation of self-improvement, non-competitiveness, and connection to environment. It's a modern evolution of movement, born from the concrete arteries of Parisian suburbs, where boundaries aren't broken, but flowed over, under, and through. The Tour de France is perhaps the most famous cycling race in the world, a grueling, multi-stage competition that traverses the varied and often punishing terrain of France over 3 weeks each summer. First held in 1903 to boost newspaper sales for L'Auto, the race has grown into an international sporting spectacle, with millions of roadside spectators and global television audiences. Riders tackle high mountain climbs in the Alps and Pyrenees, time trials and sprint stages across the countryside, culminating in a triumphant finish on the Champs-Élysées in Paris. The coveted yellow jersey, maillot jaune, worn by the overall leader, has become a symbol of endurance, strategy, and athletic excellence. While the Tour has faced controversies, including doping scandals, it remains a cultural institution in France, part sporting event, part national celebration. It unites regions, showcases rural beauty, and tests the absolute limits of human perseverance on 2 wheels. Le jeu de paume is the elegant ancestor of modern tennis, originally played with the palm of the hand, before evolving to include rackets. Flourishing in France from the Middle Ages through the Renaissance, it was once the sport of kings, most notably Henry IV and Louis Cortinus, who had courts built within palaces. Played indoors on asymmetrical courts with sloping roofs and windows as part of play, the game is complex and strategic, combining elements of tennis, squash, and chess-like positioning. Scoring terms like love and deuce originate from jeu de paume, reflecting its deep linguistic and cultural imprint. Though it declined after the Revolution, the game survives today under the name real tennis, or curti paume, preserved by a handful of enthusiasts. As both a noble pastime and a precursor to a global sport, le jeu de paume remains a living thread in the history of leisure, power, and play. Les boules lyonnaises, or la lyonnaise, is a regional cousin of pétanque, known for its larger playing field, heavier metal balls, and dynamic, almost athletic style. Originating in Lyon in the 18th century, this version of boules involves players taking a run-up before throwing, a striking contrast to the static posture of pétanque. The game is played on a long, rectangular gravel court, and matches often feature arcing shots and targeted hits that resemble precision artillery. Scoring, like in pétanque, revolves around proximity to the butt, target ball, but the techniques are more varied and often more physically demanding. Today, les boules lyonnaises are maintained through clubs and local competitions, especially in southeastern France, where it remains a symbol of regional pride. While it lacks the widespread popularity of pétanque, its blend of grace, power, and strategic finesse has secured its place as a refined and underappreciated sport in the rich French boules tradition. Le savate, also known as French boxing, is a refined martial art that combines boxing techniques with graceful, shoe-clad kicks. Developed in the 19th century from street fighting traditions and naval self-defense systems, savate quickly became formalized into a codified sport taught in gymnasiums and military academies. Practitioners wear gloves and light, slipper-like shoes designed for agility, allowing kicks to be delivered with speed and precision to specific target areas. Unlike other kickboxing styles, savate emphasizes elegance, timing, and fluidity over brute force. often likened to a dance in combat. It gained cultural legitimacy when it was practiced by aristocrats and featured in early Olympic exhibitions. Today, savate enjoys international recognition with a ranking system, competitions, and a devoted following that preserves its uniquely French character. More than just a fighting style, le savate embodies balance of strength and grace, defense and display, tradition and innovation, all delivered with a well-placed chaussure to the torso. Le jockey-ball is a fast-paced indoor sport born in France in the late 1980s that blends the footwork of soccer with the intensity and enclosed environment of squash. Played by two teams of two players in a walled court, the game requires agility, coordination and strategic rebounding off glass walls to outmaneuver opponents and score goals. The ball is smaller than a regulation football and players are not allowed to touch the walls with their hands, making it a hands-free, high-energy hybrid. Despite its obscurity outside France, jockey-ball has built a niche community and even an international federation, with competitions hosted across Europe and South America. Often found in fitness clubs and sports complexes, it appeals to both casual players and serious competitors looking for a new twist on familiar mechanics. The jockey-ball is a testament to French inventiveness in sport, blending existing elements into something novel, frenetic, and surprisingly addictive. Le tir à la corde, or tug-of-war, may seem simple, but it carries deep roots in rural French culture as a communal and symbolic test of strength, coordination, and collective spirit. Often played during village fêtes and harvest festivals, the game pits two teams against each other in a direct primal contest where brute power meets synchronization. Each side pulls on a thick rope trying to drag the other across a central line, accompanied by cheers, chants, and the rhythmic stomping of boots in the dust. Beyond the physical challenge, le tir à la corde often serves as a light-hearted outlet for long-standing rivalries between neighborhoods, professions, or family clans. Though less common in modern times, it still makes appearances in traditional festivals, rural games, and scout camps. In its simplicity, it represents the enduring appeal of direct competition and the camaraderie forged in shared struggle. Sometimes, the oldest games are the most human. Le quintain was a medieval training device used by jousters to hone their lance skills, consisting of a rotating target mounted on a pole, often with a shield on one side and a weight or arm on the other. The goal was to strike the shield cleanly with a lance while galloping past, avoiding the spinning arm that would swing around and knock an inattentive rider off his horse. Originally derived from Roman cavalry training, the quintain was used throughout medieval France as a measure of readiness before the grand spectacle of the joust. It required not just precision and strength, but also timing, speed, and awareness, serving as both a practice tool and a public display of martial prowess. While jousting has long vanished from the battlefield, le quintain lives on in historical reenactments and traditional equestrian games. It reminds us of a time when the art of war was also the art of pageantry, where even practice was a performance. Les Cagots were a mysterious and tragically marginalized caste who lived in the Pyrenees and parts of western France and northern Spain from medieval times into the 19th century. Despite being indistinguishable from the rest of the population in appearance and language, Cagots were subjected to severe social exclusion and cruel superstition. They were forced to live in separate quarters, enter churches through side doors, and often wear a distinctive badge, usually a duck's foot, to mark them. Forbidden from owning land or marrying non-Cagots, they were relegated to menial trades like carpentry or rope making. The origins of their ostracization remain debated. Some theories suggest leper ancestry, others a displaced religious sect. What's clear is that Cagots were scapegoated for centuries, their existence a haunting reminder of how societies can invent others out of fear and myth. Even today, in remote regions, faint traces of the stigma linger, though the community itself has faded into shadowed history. Les demoiselles coiffées, or ladies with hats, are striking geological formations found in the French Alps, particularly in the Hautes-Alpes region. These natural wonders are tall columns of eroded earth capped with protective stones, resembling women wearing elegant bonnets or towering hats, formed by a process known as differential erosion. The softer sedimentary base is worn away by wind and rain, while the harder capstone shields the pinnacle beneath it, creating surreal silhouettes that rise like frozen figures from the landscape. Local legends abound, often linking the formations to enchanted maidens or punished nobles turned to stone. Their eerie beauty, especially at dawn or dusk, when shadows stretch long, gives them an almost spiritual presence. Visitors often describe feeling as if they've stepped into a fairy tale or a forgotten realm. Les Demoiselles Coiffées are not just geological anomalies, they are nature's sculptures, silent sentinels, standing over valleys etched by both time and imagination. Le Saut de la Pucelle, or the Maiden's Leap, is a scenic waterfall or cliff often associated with legends of purity and virtue, found in several locations across France. These spots typically feature a narrow, perilous rock ledge or cascading stream said to have once been used by young women to test their chastity, by leaping across or near the edge without falling, proving themselves innocent in the eyes of tradition or divine judgment. While the stories are likely apocryphal, passed down through oral tradition, they reflect deeper cultural attitudes about honor, femininity, and fear. The most famous such site is near Luz-le-Croix, Hauteuil in the Drôme, where the steep plunge and its name evoke the tensions of folklore, beauty, danger, and social expectations, converging in a single place. Today, Le Saut de la Pucelle is more a hiking landmark than a trial of virtue, but its legend continues to echo in whispers among the rocks and rushing water. Les Fontaines à Vin, in Pauliac, are a festive and distinctly French tradition where, during the grape harvest season, taps or fountains literally flow with red wine. Nestled in the Bordeaux wine region, Pauliac is home to some of the world's most prestigious vineyards, and during celebratory periods, particularly around vendanges, harvest time, residents and visitors alike are invited to sample the fruits of the region in the most literal way possible. The wine fountains are symbolic acts of hospitality, abundance, and communal joy, transforming a luxury product into something temporarily shared and free. Though symbolic in volume, one doesn't fill barrels here, they represent a deep cultural value. That wine is not just a commodity but a part of the land, history, and identity. With music, food, and laughter surrounding the flowing taps, Les Fontaines à Vin become moments of egalitarian indulgence, where Bacchus would surely feel at home. Les pierres sacouées, or bowl stones, are ancient rocks scattered across Brittany, carved with mysterious, shallow depressions that resemble bowls, basins, or cup marks. These enigmatic formations, sometimes arranged in deliberate patterns or found near megalithic sites, have puzzled historians and archaeologists for centuries. Some believe they were used in prehistoric rituals, perhaps for offerings, grinding herbs, or collecting rainwater for ceremonial use. Others suggest astronomical or calendrical functions, linking the carvings to solstice alignments or star patterns. Locals often imbue the stones with mystical properties, claiming they possess healing powers or serve as markers of druidic rites. Their weathered surfaces and quiet forest surroundings lend them a sacred ambience, drawing both scholars and seekers. While their true purpose may remain uncertain, Les pierres aqueuses stand as silent relics of prehistoric spirituality, evidence that long before written history, people shaped stone to connect with the cosmos and the divine. Le fromage fort, which translates to strong cheese, is a pungent and flavorful spread born from culinary thrift in Lyon and other regions of France. Traditionally made by blending leftover bits of various cheeses, soft, hard, aged or fresh, with garlic, white wine, herbs and sometimes a splash of brandy, it's then left to mature into a heady, paste-like mixture with a robust aroma and punchy taste. This bold concoction was often used to avoid waste, turning scraps into a delicacy spread on bread or melted into stews. Despite, or because of its intensity, fromage fort has a loyal following among those who appreciate assertive flavours and rustic traditions. It's a taste of old-world frugality and inventive spirit, where nothing is discarded and every bite tells a story of kitchen alchemy. In a nation that reveres its cheeses, this humble yet formidable creation holds its own among the most celebrated fromageries of France. Les Caves de Roquefort are the natural limestone caves beneath Mont Combalou in the south of France, where one of the world's most famous blue cheeses, Roquefort, is aged to perfection. Formed by ancient geological collapses, these caves maintain a cool, constant temperature and optimal humidity levels, creating an ideal environment for the maturation of the sheep's milk cheese. What makes Roquefort unique is the introduction of Penicillium roqueforti, a mold traditionally harvested from the local bread left in the caves, which gives the cheese its distinctive veining and sharp, tangy flavour. Affinage or aging takes at least 3 months, during which wheels are turned, pierced and monitored by expert affineurs. Recognised by AOC Appellation d'origine contrôlée status since 1925, the cheese is a protected symbol of French terroir and craftsmanship. Walking through Les Caves de Roquefort is a sensory journey through time, earth and tradition, where geology and gastronomy ferment into something sublime. Les Menhirs de Locmariaquer include some of the most colossal and mysterious standing stones in Europe, particularly the famed Grand Menhir Brise, or Great Broken Menhir, which once stood over 20 metres tall and weighed nearly 300 tons. Erected around 4700 BCE and now lying in 4 shattered pieces, it was one of the tallest megaliths ever constructed by Neolithic people. The site, located in southern Brittany near the Gulf of Morbihan, also includes dolmens and tumuli, forming a complex landscape of ritual, burial and celestial alignment. The sheer scale and precision of the stones raise profound questions about prehistoric engineering, social organisation and cosmology. How such enormous stones were transported and erected without modern machinery remains an enduring mystery. Today, the site draws archaeologists, mystics and tourists alike, all seeking connection with a culture whose memory survives only in carved granite. Les Menhirs de Locmariaquer are more than ruins. They are messages in stone from a vanished world. Les écluses à poissons, or tidal fish locks, are ingenious stone structures found along France's Atlantic coast, particularly in Brittany and Vendée. Built centuries ago by coastal communities, these crescent-shaped traps were designed to catch fish using the natural rhythm of the tides. As the tide came in, fish would swim over the submerged stone walls. As the tide receded, they would become trapped inside the basin, where they could be easily collected. Constructed from locally sourced rocks and adapted to each coastal contour, these eco-friendly fishing systems allowed for sustainable harvests without nets or boats. Today, many écluses à poissons are preserved as historical monuments or restored by local associations, serving as tangible links to maritime heritage. They reflect a deep understanding of nature, ingenuity born from necessity, and a harmonious way of living with the sea. In an age of industrial overfishing, these ancient traps remind us of a slower, more respectful rhythm of sustenance. Les Feux de la Saint-Jean are vibrant bonfires lit on the evening of June 23rd, celebrating the summer solstice and the feast day of St. John the Baptist. Rooted in pre-Christian solstice rites, the tradition was later adopted and adapted by the Catholic Church, blending pagan fire worship with religious festivity. In villages and cities across France, particularly in the southwest and Brittany, giant pyres are built in open squares or fields, often accompanied by dancing, music and local food. Traditionally, couples would leap over the flames to ensure fertility and happiness, and young men might jump through the smoke to prove bravery. The fire symbolized purification, renewal, and the power of sunlight at its annual peak. Though the tradition has faded in urban areas, it thrives in rural regions, where Les Feux de la Saint-Jean remain a cherished celebration of community, continuity, and the enduring human impulse to mark time with flame and festivity. Le Musée des Égouts, or the Paris Sewer Museum, offers a surprisingly fascinating dive beneath the city's romantic surface into the complex and historic underworld that keeps it running. Located near the Pont de l'Alma, the museum takes visitors into actual sewer tunnels, showcasing the engineering marvel of Paris's vast subterranean system. first modernized under Napoleon III by Baron Haussmann and engineer Eugene Belgrand. Exhibits detail the history of waste management, water purification, and urban planning, complete with models, tools, and even mannequins representing 19th century sewer workers. The museum doesn't shy away from the grit, it embraces it, offering an unfiltered look at the hidden arteries that have kept Paris clean and livable for centuries. Oddly captivating and surprisingly educational, Le Musée des Égouts reminds us that beneath every glittering metropolis is an invisible infrastructure humming with life and labour. It's a testament to utility made fascinating and the poetry of pipes, pumps, and persistence. Le Musée de la Magie in Paris is an enchanting portal into the world of illusion, conjuring, and fantastical machines. Tucked away in the cellars of a 16th century mansion in the Marais district, the museum is filled with antique props, magical mirrors, sleight-of-hand devices, and automata, intricately crafted mechanical figures that seem to come alive. The collection spans centuries of magical history, from the stagecraft of 19th century illusionists to contemporary trickery, paying homage to legends like Jean-Eugène Robert Houdin, the father of modern magic. Live demonstrations by professional magicians bring the exhibits to life, making each visit feel like stepping into a spellbound cabinet of curiosities. The museum celebrates not only the art of deception but also the creativity and craftsmanship that go into making the impossible seem real. At Le Musée de la Magie, belief is optional, but wonder is guaranteed. Le Musée de la Contrefaçon, or Museum of Counterfeiting, offers a witty and eye-opening look at the global phenomenon of fakes and frauds. Located in a refined Parisian townhouse near the Bois de Boulogne, the museum is operated by the Union des Fabricants and features side-by-side displays of authentic items and their counterfeit counterparts, from luxury handbags and perfumes to electronics and pharmaceuticals. The collection highlights not only the craftsmanship behind famous brands, but the ingenuity and danger of imitation industries. Visitors learn about the legal, economic, and ethical issues surrounding piracy, as well as the clever tactics used by both counterfeiters and brand enforcers. Beyond handbags and watches, the museum covers fake artworks, mislabeled food, and knock-off medications, underlining the risks and consequences of a shadow economy. Le Musée de la Contrefaçon is both entertaining and cautionary, a walk through a world where everything is not quite what it seems. Le Musée de l'Érotisme, once nestled in the heart of Pigalle, was one of Paris's most controversial and titillating collections, dedicated entirely to erotic art, culture, and spiritual sexuality. Though now closed, it once housed an eclectic range of objects from across the globe, spanning sacred sculptures from India and Japan to 19th century French cabaret posters and modern photographic works. The museum's 7 floors offered an unflinching yet artful exploration of humanity's most private fascinations, featuring exhibits on brothel history, erotic religious iconography, and even a floor dedicated to outsider sexual expression. Though provocative, it approached the subject with scholarly and anthropological curiosity, framing sexuality as a lens into art, politics, and identity. Its closure in 2016 marked the end of one of Paris's boldest cultural experiments, a place that challenged visitors to view eroticism not as taboo, but as a deeply human, creative, and historical force. Le Musée de la Charcuterie in Lyon is a savoury homage to France's deep culinary heritage of cured meats, a tribute to a craft that is as much science as it is art. This unique museum, housed within a butchery school, celebrates the traditions of charcuterie, from saucisson sec and pâté to andouillette and jambon persil. Visitors can explore vintage tools, regional curing techniques, and mouth-watering displays that detail the preparation processes from pig to plate. Interactive sections allow for sensory experiences, sniffing spice blends, observing meat-cutting demonstrations, or even tasting small bites. Lyon, often considered the gastronomic capital of France, takes pride in its meat culture, and this museum reinforces that legacy with both reverence and delight. Le Musée de la Charcuterie isn't just for foodies, it's for anyone curious about the roots of flavour, tradition, and the time-honoured respect for ingredients that defines French cuisine. La Fabuloserie is an extraordinary, whimsical museum tucked away in the countryside of DC Burgundy, dedicated to art brut or outsider art. Founded by architect and art collector Alain Bourbonnais, the museum houses a collection of works created by self-taught artists, many of whom lived on the fringes of society, visionaries, recluses, or those with mental health challenges. Inside the gallery and across the outdoor Jardin d'Art Hausse-les-Normes, visitors find fantastical sculptures, bizarre machines, kaleidoscopic paintings, and kinetic figures powered by hand cranks and motors. One of the most iconic installations is the Manège de Petit Pierre, a large mechanical carousel built by a mute farmhand over decades using scrap metal and unmatched joy. La Fabuloserie is less a conventional museum and more a dreamscape, where imagination is unbounded and creativity defies expectation. It stands as a testament to the beauty that emerges when art is freed from rules, institutions, and even logic. Le Musée du Vin in Paris lies beneath the 16th arrondissement, tucked within the ancient limestone cellars once used by monks of the Order of the Minims to age their wine. Today, it serves as a temple to the history, science, and culture of viticulture. Inside, visitors wander through vaulted halls filled with antique wine presses, tasting tools, vineyard maps, and historic bottles. The exhibits explore everything from fermentation techniques and grape varietals to wine's role in French heritage and ritual. Tasting sessions and pairing events are often held on site, turning theory into sensual practice. The museum appeals to both novice sippers and seasoned oenophiles, offering a multi-sensory journey through centuries of wine wisdom. In a country where wine is more than a beverage, it's a symbol of identity and terroir. Le Musée du Vin captures the reverence, romance, and rigor behind every glass poured. Le Musée de la Chasse et de la Nature in Guienne, distinct from the better-known Parisian version, presents a regional, deeply rooted perspective on the traditions of hunting and wildlife in the Loire Valley. Housed in the Château de Guienne, the museum features a rich collection of hunting weapons, tapestries and artworks that illustrate how humans have interacted with nature through the centuries. The museum's design carefully balances reverence for nature with historical narrative, examining both practical and symbolic aspects of hunting, ritual, nobility, sustenance, and sport. Guyenne, long known for its faience pottery and riverside charm, offers a scenic backdrop to this exploration of rural heritage. Le Musée de la Chasse honours not only the hunter but the ecosystem, inviting visitors to consider the changing role of wildlife and conservation in modern France. And it's a quiet, dignified place where past and present roam side by side in glass cases and old stone halls. Le Musée de la Préhistoire in Les Aisies de Taillac is the heart of France's prehistoric corridor, set within the Vézère Valley, home to some of the world's most famous Paleolithic sites, including Lascaux. Built into a cliff face, the museum displays a vast collection of ancient tools, bones, sculptures, and interactive reconstructions that trace over 400,000 years of human evolution and creativity. Visitors can view flint axes, mammoth tusks, Cro-Magnon skulls, and exquisite carvings like the Venus figurines, all contextualized within the caves and riverbanks that gave rise to early civilization. The building itself feels like a continuation of the landscape, blending into the rock and echoing the sheltering caves once inhabited by our ancestors. Le Musée de la Préhistoire isn't just an educational site, it's a pilgrimage to the birthplace of art, storytelling, and the human mind. Here, in the shadows of the Dordogne cliffs, we rediscover our oldest truths etched in stone and bone. Le Musée de la Poupée in Paris was a charming and delicate museum dedicated entirely to dolls, offering a deeply nostalgic and anthropological glimpse into childhood across centuries. Though it closed in 2017, it once displayed over 500 dolls from the 18th century to the modern era, porcelain beauties, wooden playthings, fashion dolls, and even ventriloquist dummies. Each figure told a story of taste, material culture, and social expectation, from luxurious creations for aristocratic girls to mass-produced companions of post-war childhoods. The museum also explored themes like doll repair, gender roles, and emotional attachment, making it much more than a toy showcase. It hosted doll hospitals, workshops, and rotating exhibits, giving it the feel of a living playroom crossed with a cultural archive. Le Musée de la Poupée was a testament to how even the smallest artifacts, fragile, button-eyed, and silent, can speak volumes about who we are and how we grow. La Fête du Vent, held each year in Marseille, is a vibrant celebration of wind, sky, and soaring imagination, where the city's Prado Beach transforms into a canvas of colour and flight. Kite enthusiasts from around the world gather to fly intricate, oversized, and often artistic creations that dance above the Mediterranean. Dragons, birds, geometric wonders, and whimsical creatures fill the sky, propelled by the sea breeze and guided by expert hands. The festival isn't just for spectators, it invites children and families to participate in workshops, competitions, and wind-powered games. Live music, street performances, and food stalls round out the festive atmosphere, making it a full sensory experience. La Fête du Vent not only celebrates the art of kite flying but also emphasizes environmental awareness, especially the relationship between humans, air, and open space. It's a uniquely peaceful yet exhilarating event, where eyes lift to the sky and joy floats with every gust of wind. Les Médiévals de Provence is one of France's most immersive historical festivals, transforming the UNESCO-listed town of Provence into a living tableau of the Middle Ages. For 2 days each summer, the streets teem with knights, jesters, nobles, merchants, and artisans, all dressed in period costume, reenacting daily life, tournaments, and feasts. From the 12th and 13th centuries, the town's well-preserved walls, towers, and market squares create the perfect backdrop for falconry displays, troubadour music, blacksmithing demonstrations, and medieval theatre. Markets overflow with handcrafted wares, from leather goods to mead, and everyone is encouraged to dress up and join in. Educational and wildly entertaining, the event bridges past and present, letting visitors step directly into the age of chivalry and heraldry. Les Médiévals de Provence is not just a reenactment, it's a full cultural immersion that revives the grandeur, grit, and spectacle of a bygone world. Le Carnaval de Nice is one of Europe's grandest and oldest carnivals, with a history dating back to the 13th century and a flair for theatrics unlike any other. Held each February along the sun-drenched Promenade des Anglais, the event features colossal papier-mâché floats parading through the city, many of which take months to design and construct. The carnival's themes, often satirical and politically charged, are brought to life with enormous puppet-like figures, costume dancers, confetti storms, and musical performances. One of the most beloved traditions is the Bataille de Fleurs, Battle of Flowers, where performers on flower-covered floats toss fresh blossoms into the cheering crowd. Day or night, the atmosphere pulses with colour, humour, and joie de vivre. Le Carnaval de Nice is not just a parade, it's a theatrical spectacle, a public catharsis, and a dazzling celebration of creativity and community that lights up the Côte d'Azur in the depths of winter. La Fête de l'Année, the Donkey Festival, is a whimsical rural tradition celebrated in several small French villages, particularly in mountainous or agricultural regions where donkeys were once essential to daily life. During this event, locals honour the humble année with parades, races, and even light-hearted costume contests, where donkeys are dressed in festive garb. Children can ride donkeys through the streets, and older generations share stories of the animal's loyalty, intelligence, and role in farming culture. Often paired with music, rustic meals, and folkloric dances, the festival reflects the deep bond between people and working animals in traditional rural France. It also provides a charming opportunity to highlight animal welfare and conservation, as donkey populations have declined with mechanized farming. La Fête de l'Âne is equal parts nostalgia and celebration, a tender tribute to one of humanity's oldest and most quietly dignified companions. Les Nuits Sonores, held annually in Lyon, is a pulsating celebration of electronic and experimental music that transforms the city into a labyrinth of light, sound, and innovation. Launched in 2003, the festival has grown into one of Europe's premier showcases of avant-garde audiovisual culture, drawing renowned DJs, underground producers, and multimedia artists from around the world. Concerts and installations take over warehouses, factories, rooftops, museums, and public spaces, turning Lyon's urban fabric into a dynamic playground of sonic exploration. Daytime conferences and workshops invite dialogue on music, design, and digital culture, while nighttime events offer immersive, high-energy performances. Far from just a party, Les Nuits Sonores reflects the city's cultural edge and forward-thinking spirit, blending heritage architecture with cutting-edge creativity. It's a festival where beats echo through cobblestone alleys and the future of sound is crafted in the heart of a historic city. La Fête du Citron in Menton is a citrus-soaked carnival that defies expectations with its surreal beauty and stunning craftsmanship. Held each February in this sun-kissed town near the Italian border, the festival features monumental sculptures, floats, and garden displays made entirely from lemons and oranges. Themes change yearly, ranging from world mythologies to literary classics, and the results are dazzling. Elephants, castles, and pharaohs rising from citrus peels with mind-boggling precision. The event includes parades, illuminated night processions, fruit markets, and citrus-themed cuisine, creating a sensory overload of colour, fragrance, and festivity. Originating in the 1930s as a way to celebrate the region's prolific lemon harvest, La Fête du Citron has grown into an international event, attracting visitors eager to see ephemeral art built from nature's brightest fruit. It's a uniquely Mediterranean celebration, where agriculture becomes artistry, and even the air smells like sunshine. Le Via Charreuse is Brittany's largest and most beloved music festival, drawing over 200,000 attendees each summer to the small town of Carhaix. What began in 1992 as a modest gathering of friends has grown into one of France's major cultural events, hosting legendary acts from across genres: rock, pop, hip-hop, electronic, and world music. Set against a pastoral Breton backdrop, the festival retains its grassroots charm while showcasing global talent, from local folk singers to international headliners like Elton John and Kendrick Lamar. Its name, meaning Old Ploughs, nods to the region's rural identity and the festival's down-to-earth ethos. Attendees camp out in fields, share communal meals, and revel in 4 days of non-stop music and camaraderie. Les Vieilles Charrues is more than a concert series, it's a celebration of diversity, joy, and the unifying power of sound, proving that even the quietest corners of France can host world-class, unforgettable revelry. Le Festival d'Avignon is one of the most prestigious theatre festivals in the world, transforming the entire city of Avignon into a stage each July. Founded in 1947 by actor-director Jean Vilar, the festival takes place in historical venues like the majestic courtyard of the Palais des Papes, as well as streets, gardens and cloisters throughout the city. The programme includes classical productions, contemporary works, experimental theatre, dance and multimedia performances, drawing performers and audiences from across the globe. In parallel with the official in-festival, the Off-Fringe Festival explodes with hundreds of independent shows, creating an electric atmosphere of artistic dialogue and discovery. For 3 weeks, Avignon becomes a theatre lover's dream, a living laboratory of ideas, emotions and performance. Le Festival d'Avignon doesn't just stage plays, it stages possibilities, inviting audiences to rethink boundaries, language and the very essence of storytelling. La Fête de la Musique, held every June 21st on the summer solstice, is France's nationwide gift to sound and spontaneity. First launched in 1982 by then Minister of Culture Jack Lang, the festival encourages everyone from professional bands to amateur singers to fill the streets with music. Concerts erupt in parks, courtyards, metros, churches and balconies, all free of charge and open to the public. Genres blend as jazz quartets follow punk trios and choirs harmonise beside techno DJs. Cities, towns and villages alike are transformed into open-air stages, uniting people across backgrounds and generations in a joyous, chaotic celebration of musical expression. La Fête de la Musique has since inspired similar events worldwide, but its soul remains distinctly French, egalitarian, festive, and a little rebellious. It's not just about music, it's about reclaiming public space, sharing emotion, and creating one long, resonant note of togetherness as summer begins. Le Mondial de la Bière, held in Strasbourg, is France's premier beer festival, a sprawling showcase of craft, artisanal and international brews nestled in the heart of Alsace, a region long associated with brewing heritage. Originating in Montreal, the festival's French edition invites hundreds of breweries to pour thousands of varieties, from hoppy IPAs and velvety stouts to fruity sours and traditional Belgian ales. Tasting sessions are paired with gourmet food, live music and brewing workshops, drawing beer lovers, novices and professionals alike. The event highlights innovation as much as tradition, giving space to experimental brewers and sustainable practices alongside time-honored classics. Held in Strasbourg's contemporary Parc des Expositions, Le Mondial de la Bière is both sensory indulgence and cultural celebration, a tribute to hops, malt, and the joy of discovering new flavors in good company. In the land of wine, this beer festival proves that fermentation knows no borders. La Poste's early morning delivery is a hallmark of the French postal system, with a long-standing tradition of ensuring mail arrives before breakfast. Dating back to the 19th century, this practice was rooted in a desire to synchronize communication with the rhythms of daily life, delivering letters, newspapers, and official notices before households began their day. Even in modern times, La Poste continues to uphold this ritual in many regions, with postmen and women, called facteurs, quietly navigating narrow streets and countryside lanes at dawn. Clad in navy uniforms and often on bicycles or scooters, they represent both efficiency and continuity, linking the technological age to the personal touch of handwritten correspondence. Though digital communication has reduced volume, early delivery remains a cultural expectation, symbolizing reliability and service in a society that still values the power of the printed word. In France, to find a letter at your door by 8 a.m. is more than convenience, it's tradition. Le Club des Hachishines was an avant-garde and clandestine literary circle in 19th-century Paris where members, many of whom were celebrated writers and artists, experimented with hashish to explore altered states of consciousness. Founded in the 1840s and meeting in the Gothic rooms of the Hôtel Pimodan on Ile Saint-Louis, the club included notable figures like Charles Baudelaire, Alexandre Dumas, Gérard de Nerval, and Honoré de Balzac. Hashish was consumed in the form of dawamesk, a greenish paste blended with spices and sugar, and the gatherings were equal parts mystical exploration and social rebellion. The members weren't hedonists so much as intellectuals probing the boundaries of perception, creativity, and madness. The club's influence is evident in the works of its members, many of whom wrote about hallucinations, expanded consciousness, and the surreal. Le Club des Hachishins remains a fascinating footnote in the story of Romanticism, where art, identity, and intoxication intertwined in pursuit of the sublime. La Confrérie des Chevaliers du Tasse de Vin is an elite yet jovial brotherhood founded in 1934 to celebrate and preserve the traditions of Burgundy wine. Headquartered in the historic Château du Clos de Vougeot, the order brings together wine growers, gastronomes and enthusiasts who share a deep reverence for the region's terroir. Members don't elaborate ceremonial robes of red and gold, and gatherings often resemble medieval feasts, complete with toasts, song and formal induction. The name Tasse de Vin refers to the shallow silver cup used by sommeliers to examine wine, a symbol of both technical expertise and ritual appreciation. While playful in tone, the Brotherhood plays a serious role in promoting Burgundy wines internationally and maintaining standards of excellence. Its influence extends into tourism, diplomacy and education, making it one of the most colourful yet respected wine fraternities in France. To be welcomed into the confrérie is not only an honour, it's an invitation to join a living tradition of conviviality, connoisseurship, and cultural pride. Les Compagnons du Devoir are heirs to a centuries-old tradition of artisanal mastery and lifelong learning rooted in the guild systems of medieval France. This unique brotherhood trains young craftsmen and women in trades ranging from stonemasonry and carpentry to pastry making and metalwork. Apprentices embark on a journey known as the Tour de France, a multi-year pilgrimage through cities and workshops, working under master artisans while living in communal housing. More than just technical instruction, Les Compagnons teach humility, discipline, and the values of precision and collaboration. Their motto, ni se servir, ni s'asservir, mais servir, neither serve oneself nor be enslaved, but to serve, underscores a philosophy of dedication to craft and community. Their hand-rested cathedrals, bridges, and delicate architectural flourishes are scattered across the country as enduring testaments to their skill. In an age of automation and fast production, Les Compagnons du Devoir represent a deeply human legacy of knowledge passed hand to hand, stone to stone. L'Ordre des Arts et des Lettres is a prestigious honour bestowed by the French Ministry of Culture upon individuals, both French and international, who have made significant contributions to the arts, literature, or the promotion of French culture. Established in 1957, the order recognises creators and advocates in fields ranging from writing and filmmaking to architecture and fashion. Recipients are inducted as Chevalier, Knight, Officier, Officer, or Commandeur, Commander, each level acknowledging deeper cultural impact. Past honorees include T.S. Eliot, Meryl Streep, Tim Burton, and Patti Smith, reflecting the order's global embrace. The medal itself, a green enamelled cross with silver rays, is a symbol of France's commitment to artistic excellence and the belief that culture is both a national treasure and a global bridge. L'Ordre des Arts et des Lettres not only recognises talent, it affirms that art and intellect are foundational to the French identity. La Cinémathèque Française is one of the most important film archives in the world, housing over 40,000 films and thousands of scripts, costumes, props, and posters. Founded in 1936 by the legendary Henri Langlois, the Cinémathèque played a key role in preserving the history of cinema at a time when many silent films were being lost or discarded. Langlois famously prioritized preservation over categorization, collecting everything from early reels to obscure international films, often smuggling them out of countries in turmoil. His passion helped inspire the French New Wave, with filmmakers like François Truffaut and Jean-Luc Godard attending Cinémathèque screenings religiously. Located today in a modern, Frank Gehry-designed building in Bercy, Paris, it hosts exhibitions, retrospectives, and film education programs year-round. More than an archive, La Cinémathèque Française is a temple to cinema as an art form, its flickering reels preserving not just images, but memory, innovation, and the dreams of generations. Le Collège de France is a unique academic institution in Paris that offers cutting-edge lectures by world-renowned scholars, completely free and open to the public. Founded in 1530 by King Francis I, the college was conceived as an alternative to the traditional university system, emphasizing research and intellectual exploration without the constraints of degrees or tuition. Professors are selected based on their original contributions to knowledge in fields ranging from mathematics and physics to philosophy, anthropology, and literature. Each gives lectures on their current research, often with no set syllabus, making the college a place of dynamic intellectual evolution. For curious minds, it offers rare access to some of the most brilliant thinkers of our time, presenting ideas as they are being born. Le Collège de France is a radical experiment in open education, where knowledge is not a commodity but a gift, and learning is a lifelong, democratic pursuit. Les Utopiales, held annually in Nantes, is one of Europe's premier science fiction festivals, a sprawling interdisciplinary celebration of speculative imagination across literature, film, comics, and science. Since its founding in 2000, the event has drawn authors, scientists, philosophers, and artists who use the lens of science fiction to explore future technologies, societal challenges, and philosophical dilemmas. Panels and debates range from AI ethics to space colonization, while exhibitions showcase futuristic artwork and immersive VR installations. Screenings of classic and emerging sci-fi cinema are paired with author signings, cosplay, and tabletop gaming, turning the entire convention space into a futuristic playground. Set in the city of Jules Verne, Les Utopiales reflects a French love for bold ideas and cultural curiosity, blending artistic fantasy with serious inquiry. It's a place where storytelling and science blur, and where tomorrow is imagined, debated, and celebrated in full creative force. Le Musée de l'Homme, located in the Palais de Chaillot across from the Eiffel Tower, is France's premier anthropology museum, offering a sweeping exploration of human origins, diversity, and cultures. Founded in 1937, the museum houses thousands of objects, from Neanderthal skulls and ancient tools to ceremonial masks, skeletons, and multimedia displays. Its goal is to tell the story of Homo sapiens not just biologically, but socially and philosophically, answering the questions: where do we come from? Who are we? Where are we going? Renovated in 2015, the museum now blends cutting-edge science with reflective exhibitions, inviting visitors to ponder the complexity of humanity across time and place. The famed skull wall, displaying crania from around the world, is both haunting and awe-inspiring. Le Musée de l'Homme is more than a cabinet of curiosities. It is a space for contemplating evolution, culture, and the fragile threads that connect us all. L'Institut du Monde Arabe is a striking cultural institution in Paris dedicated to fostering understanding between France and the Arab world. Designed by Jean Nouvel and completed in 1987, its facade features a dazzling array of mechanical, photosensitive apertures that adjust to light like a camera lens, melding Islamic architectural motifs with modern technology. Inside, the institute hosts rotating exhibitions, lectures, films, and musical performances that explore Arab history, art, science, and contemporary culture. From ancient manuscripts to digital installations, it offers a nuanced and dynamic view of the Arab world's contributions to global civilization. The building's rooftop terrace provides one of the best panoramic views of Notre Dame and the Seine, inviting reflection not just on geography, but on cultural interconnectedness. L'Institut du Monde Arabe stands as a bridge of dialogue between past and present, East and West, tradition and innovation, shaping a richer understanding of identity in a globalized world. La Baignade Urbaine is a refreshing and innovative movement in French cities where stretches of rivers are transformed into pop-up swimming spots during the summer months. Once considered unthinkable due to water pollution and safety concerns, these urban swimming initiatives have emerged as symbols of ecological renewal and civic leisure. Cities like Paris, Lyon, and Strasbourg have introduced designated swimming zones in the Seine, Rhône, and other waterways, often with floating docks, lifeguards, and strict cleanliness monitoring. These spaces offer a free and accessible alternative to traditional pools, especially for residents without vacation plans. The idea combines public health, environmental activism, and summertime joy, turning industrial-era riverbanks into modern-day oases. La Baignade Urbaine is more than just cooling off, it's about reclaiming public space, reimagining city life, and diving back into nature, right in the heart of the metropolis. Le Permis de Conduire à Points is France's point-based driver's license system, designed to promote road safety through accountability and education. Introduced in 1992, the license begins with 12 points, which can be reduced through traffic infractions such as speeding, phone use, or running red lights. Minor offences deduct 1 or 2 points, while serious violations can remove up to 6 at once. When all points are lost, the license is revoked, and drivers must undergo retraining and pass exams to regain it. However, points can also be recovered over time or through voluntary safety courses. This system emphasizes a rehabilitative rather than purely punitive approach, encouraging drivers to reflect on habits and improve behavior. Le Permis à Points is now deeply embedded in French driving culture, with its own slang, apps, and cautionary tales, serving as a daily reminder that driving is a privilege shaped by choices and consequences. Les apéritifs d'un soir are a uniquely French way of blending the casual charm of a cocktail hour with the substance of a full meal, allowing hosts to entertain without the formality of a sit-down dinner. Typically held in the early evening, these events feature an array of small bites, cheeses, charcuterie, tapenades, crudités, and artisanal breads, served alongside wine, beer, or homemade cocktails. The focus is on mingling, grazing, and relaxed conversation rather than courses or etiquette. L'apéro dînatoire reflects modern French urban lifestyles, where space may be limited and schedules unpredictable, but the desire to gather and share food remains strong. It's a format that emphasizes sociability, generosity, and improvisation, whether for spontaneous gatherings among friends or more curated soirees with themed platters and music. In a culture where food equals connection, les apéritifs dînatoires offer a delicious middle ground between spontaneity and tradition. Le Cahier de Doléances, literally Notebook of Grievances, has deep historical roots in France dating back to the lead-up to the French Revolution. In 1789, town halls and parishes were instructed to collect the complaints, suggestions, and demands of ordinary citizens, which would then be presented to the Estates General. The practice resurfaced in recent decades, notably during political unrest or reform debates, such as the 2018 Yellow Vest protests, when President Macron invited citizens to express their concerns in modern versions of these notebooks. Found in town halls, libraries, or online platforms, Les Cahiers de Doléances serve as a grassroots channel for civic expression, raw, handwritten reflections on taxation, education, healthcare, and social justice. While they don't always yield immediate policy change, they hold symbolic and archival power, capturing the heartbeat of the nation and offering a democratic outlet for voices often unheard. They are France's paper trail of discontent and hope. Les Foires au Vin are highly anticipated wine fairs held each fall and spring, primarily organised by French supermarkets and online retailers, offering deep discounts on a wide range of wines, from everyday table reds to prestigious Bordeaux Creux. First launched by Ile-Eclair in the 1970s, these events have become cultural and economic fixtures, drawing bargain hunters, collectors, and curious novices alike. Many stores publish detailed catalogues and hire sommeliers to assist shoppers who arrive armed with notes and ranked wish lists. For producers, it's an opportunity to reach a national audience. For consumers, it's a rare chance to stock sellers without draining wallets. Les Foires au Vin reflects the democratization of wine in France, where access to quality bottles is not reserved for connoisseurs. The excitement they generate each year turns grocery aisles into tasting rooms and shopping carts into miniature vineyards, making wine appreciation both accessible and communal. La chambre de bonne is a term for the tiny, often Spartan-attic rooms once reserved for domestic servants in Haussmann-era Paris buildings. Today, they're typically rented to students, artists, or young professionals seeking affordable housing in an otherwise costly city. Ranging from 8 to 15 square meters, these rooms are known for their slanted ceilings, narrow staircases, and shared bathrooms, offering a bare minimum of comfort in exchange for unbeatable central locations. Despite their modesty, les chambres de bonne are deeply woven into Parisian law, romanticized in literature and film, yet also critiqued as symbols of inequality in urban living. In recent years, regulations have emerged to ensure livability, setting minimum space and light requirements, but the term still evokes a particular kind of bohemian resilience. For many, a chambre de bonne is both a rite of passage and a metaphor, life on the top floor, close to the stars, but a long climb from the street. Le Bon Coin is France's wildly popular classified ad platform, often described as a more user-friendly, regionally tailored version of Craigslist. Founded in 2006, it quickly became a staple of daily life, for everything from apartment hunting and job searching to buying used furniture, bicycles, baby clothes, and even farm animals. Its minimalist design and emphasis on locality make it both accessible and trusted. Users search by region or city, and most exchanges happen face-to-face. Whether you're looking for a vintage armoire in Lyon, a babysitter in Marseille, or concert tickets in Lille, Le Bon Coin is the go-to. Beyond commerce, it's become a cultural mirror, reflecting regional dialects, price quirks, and even social humour through the tone of its ads. For many, it's more than a marketplace, it's a digital village square where needs, opportunities, and oddities converge. Le jardinage dans les cimetières, gardening in cemeteries, is a quiet, contemplative tradition deeply rooted in French culture, where families maintain not only the graves of loved ones, but also the surrounding plots as miniature gardens. Chrysanthemums are famously placed on graves for La Toussaint, All Saints' Day, but throughout the year relatives may plant geraniums, roses, or herbs in personalised arrangements that reflect the tastes or memories of the deceased. Far from being sombre, these spaces often bloom with colour and life, transforming cemeteries into reflective sanctuaries of care and continuity. In some rural communities, this practice becomes a shared seasonal ritual where neighbours exchange gardening tips over stone borders. Le jardinage dans les cimetières is more than a decorative act. It's a form of living remembrance, where tending to the soil is an act of love and legacy, keeping the dead present through petals, water, and earth. Les vides-greniers, which translates to emptying the attic, are communal garage sales held throughout towns and neighbourhoods in France, especially on weekends during spring and summer. Unlike flea markets run by professionals, vide-greniers are strictly for private citizens selling their personal belongings, clothing, toys, antiques, books, dishes and oddities collected over decades. Streets are closed to traffic, stalls set up under tents, and the air fills with the sound of bargaining and chatter. These events are as much about community as they are about commerce, offering a chance to stroll, socialise and stumble upon hidden treasures. Children sell old comics while grandparents haggle over vintage linens, and every item tells a story. Les vides-greniers reflect the French appreciation for reuse, nostalgia, and interpersonal exchange. In a society that balances tradition and modernity, they provide a charming grassroots antidote to fast consumerism, where value is measured in memory, not tags. Le Livret A is France's most popular and emblematic savings account, backed by the government and used by millions of citizens as a secure, tax-free place to stash money. First introduced in 1818 to encourage small-scale saving among the working class, the Livret A remains accessible to everyone, minors included, with no fees, a modest but guaranteed interest rate, and total capital protection. Its funds are often reinvested into public housing and infrastructure projects, giving the account a quasi-civic dimension. For many French people, opening a Livret A is a rite of financial passage, often gifted to children by grandparents or used as a rainy day fund for weddings, renovations or travel. Despite inflation and economic fluctuations, the account's simplicity and trustworthiness keep it deeply embedded in French financial life. Le Livret A is more than a banking product, it's a quiet pillar of stability in a culture that prizes prudence and planning. La Veuve is a legendary creature, rooted in the folklore of Burgundy and the Jura region, often described as a serpentine dragon with glittering wings, sometimes crowned with a single hypnotic gemstone. This fearsome yet mesmerizing being is said to guard vast treasures, gold, jewels, or ancient secrets, hidden deep within mountain caves or beneath rivers. The most distinctive trait of the Veuve is her dazzling ruby eye or jewel, which she removes when bathing, leaving her momentarily vulnerable. Those brave or foolish enough to steal it might gain immense riches or knowledge, but the wrath of the returning Veuve is swift and merciless. Often depicted as both alluring and terrifying, the creature embodies dual forces of nature, beauty and danger, wealth and ruin. While her myth has inspired regional festivals and literature, La Veuve remains an elusive symbol of temptation and the high cost of greed in the shadowed forests of France. Le Dahu is a mythical creature from the mountainous regions of France, especially the Alps and the Jura, known primarily through a humorous folklore tradition. It's described as resembling a goat or chamois, with legs on one side shorter than the other, allowing it to walk easily along steep mountain slopes, but only in one direction. Tales of the Dahu are usually shared in jest, often as part of elaborate pranks played on tourists or children. The typical setup involves a Dahu hunt, where the unsuspecting are led into the mountains at night to catch a glimpse of the elusive animal, only to be told to remain quiet or still while the pranksters enjoy the joke. Despite its fictional nature, the Dahu holds a beloved place in French alpine culture, serving as a light-hearted symbol of local wit, storytelling tradition, and the playful bond between locals and their landscapes. Les Lavandières, or the washerwomen, are spectral figures from Breton and Norman folklore, said to haunt rivers, lakes, or village fountains during moonlit nights. These ghostly women, dressed in white or tattered garments, are seen endlessly scrubbing blood-stained linen, weeping as they toil. According to legend, encountering les lavandières can bring misfortune or death, especially if one refuses to help them wring out the heavy sheets. However, aiding them incorrectly, twisting the fabric the wrong way, could also result in a broken limb or worse. They are believed to be the restless spirits of women who died in childbirth, committed infanticide, or suffered tragic lives tied to water and grief. Their presence is often a warning to show compassion, heed ancient customs, or stay away from riverbanks after dark. Les lavandières weave together sorrow, penance, and the eternal weight of untold stories, their silent labour echoing across misty waters like a lullaby for the forgotten. The Légende de Montargis is a remarkable tale from medieval French legend, telling the story of a loyal dog who solved the murder of its master through divine instinct and public spectacle. The story dates back to the 14th century and begins with a knight named Aubry de Montdidier, who was mysteriously killed in a forest. His dog, a greyhound, became despondent and followed the suspected murderer everywhere with eerie persistence. Eventually, the dog's behaviour drew the attention of the king, who ordered a judicial duel between the accused man and the dog, a rare but not unheard of legal practice at the time. In a dramatic public fight, the dog triumphed and the man confessed his crime. Le Chien de Montargis became a symbol of loyalty, justice, and the supernatural ability of animals to sense truth. A statue commemorating the event still stands in the town of Montargis, immortalizing the four-legged avenger. La Bête de Sarlat is a lesser-known but chilling creature of folklore, originating in the Dordogne region of southwestern France. Described as a monstrous, boar-like beast with bristled fur, gleaming eyes, and a howl that echoed through the forests at dusk, it was said to attack livestock, tear through thatched roofs, and terrify entire villages. Like the more famous Bête du Gévaudan, the Beast of Sarlat inspired fear and superstition, with tales of failed hunting parties and claw marks found on trees and doors. Some believed it to be a cursed soul, or a spirit of vengeance tied to ancient pagan rites in the region's dense woods and limestone grottos. Though no creature was ever officially captured, its legend lived on in whispered fireside tales. La Bête de Sarlat reflects the wild, untamed aspects of the French countryside, where nature, myth, and fear blend into something primal and unforgettable. Le Trésor des Templiers is the legendary hidden treasure of the Knights Templar, long rumoured to lie buried somewhere in France after the order was disbanded by King Philip IV in the early 14th century. The Templars, once the most powerful and wealthy monastic military order in Europe, were accused of heresy, arrested en masse, and stripped of their assets, but many believe vast sums of gold, religious relics, or secret documents were hidden before the purge. France, being the heart of Templar activity, is riddled with sites associated with the myth, from the village of Rennes-les-Châteaux to old commanderies in the Languedoc and Burgundy. Stories abound of underground vaults, coded parchments, and cursed guardians, fueling centuries of speculation and treasure hunts. Though no definitive discovery has ever been made, Le Trésor des Templiers continues to ignite imaginations, merging history, conspiracy, and mysticism into one of France's most enduring and tantalizing mysteries. Le Fantôme de l'Opéra, or The Phantom of the Opera, though widely known through Gaston Leroux's 1910 novel and its many adaptations, draws from real events and eerie rumours surrounding Paris's Palais Garnier. Built in the 19th century, the opulent opera house features subterranean passages, an underground lake, and an infamous chandelier accident, elements that helped birth the legend of a masked, disfigured genius who haunted its corridors. According to the tale, the Phantom, named Eric, falls in love with a young soprano and uses terror to further her career while hiding in the shadows of the opera house. Though Leroux's story is fictional, the setting and its strange occurrences lend it a lingering realism. Le Fantôme de l'Opéra is more than a Gothic romance. It's a modern myth born from the splendour and secrecy of Parisian grandeur, where music and madness echo beneath velvet curtains and marble staircases. Les Feux Follets, known in English as will-o'-the-wisps, are mysterious flickering lights seen at night, particularly in marshlands, cemeteries, and lonely country roads. In French folklore, these ghostly flames are said to be spirits of the dead, mischievous fairies, or the souls of unbaptized children. They appear just long enough to catch the eye of travelers, leading them off the safe path and deeper into the wild, where they may become lost or worse. Some tales describe the lights as tricksters, while others treat them as tragic guides forever searching for redemption. Scientifically, they're explained as natural phenomena caused by the combustion of gases from decaying organic matter, but their haunting beauty and elusive nature make them perfect vessels for the imagination. Les feux follets represent both nature's mystery and humanity's longing to explain the inexplicable, dancing on the boundary between science and spirit, luring us into the unknown with a glimmer and a whisper. La Dame Blanche is one of France's most enduring ghostly figures, a pale, sorrowful woman often seen near ancient castles, forest roads, or bridges just before a tragedy occurs. Dressed in white and sometimes veiled, she is said to appear to travelers late at night, asking for help or posing a test of courtesy and bravery. In some versions, those who ignore her or fail to act respectfully are cursed or led to misfortune, while the kind-hearted are allowed to pass on. The stories of La Dame Blanche date back to medieval times and have been linked to noble family legends, local crimes, or folklore warning against betrayal. She has also become a modern urban myth, with sightings reported on rural roads or near ruins, her presence sending chills through generations. Whether seen as a guardian, a mourner, or a harbinger of doom, La Dame Blanche glides through French culture like a spectral reminder of past sins and unfinished stories. Le loup-garou, the French werewolf, is a staple of rural folklore, especially in the countryside of Normandy, the Vosges, and the Auvergne. Traditionally, it is said that a man becomes a loup-garou through a curse, punishment, or pact, transforming into a wolf under the full moon. These shapeshifters were feared not only for their savagery, but for their ability to blend into society by day, hiding among neighbours until nightfall. In the Middle Ages, loup-garou hysteria paralleled witch hunts, and suspected individuals were sometimes persecuted or executed. Unlike modern Hollywood portrayals, the French werewolf was often a figure of pity, a cursed soul seeking redemption rather than pure evil. Protective charms, silver, and church rituals were said to ward off transformation. Even today, whispers of loups-garous persist in rural tales and festivals, keeping the legend alive in howling winds, dark woods, and the cautionary tales passed